It is live, so we should be on now. And it's on Twitter, I think. Okay, let me just retweet, quote tweet. Let's wait for some people to come on. Let me get that link. We have one viewer so far.
Yay.
Let's get that link. And all right, I tagged you, tweeted that out. Got 4 viewers. Don't mind us, guys. We're just, you know, shouting it out first. You know, so people know. Okay, great. Oh, so, oh, I don't think he, Shocking just commented that you're streaming live from your own channel, but I think that's taken care of already.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, that was minor hiccup, technical difficulty.
Because fucking, like, I guess, like, I guess when you hit start streaming on OBS, I had some setting where even if I didn't say go, I didn't like hit a live thing on my YouTube. I didn't have to connect it at all. I could have just hit start streaming and it would just go. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah. So what happened was we were just trying to get Shaybs on camera, and you know that happened.
Yeah,
so.
You know, just trying to, yeah. So
it's,
you know, trying to do things, but you know what? Of course. But you know, it goes on. Life just goes on.
Just goes on. Unfortunately, we won't get to see Shaybs in the flesh. We won't get to see the hey, it's Shaybs, but you know,
you can hear it. Hey, it's Shaybs.
Hey,
that was half-hearted. I'm so
yet.
sorry.
Not yet.
Yeah, you let me know. Let me know when you want it, and I can.
Yeah. So okay, let me just give some context for everyone just joining us here. We got quite a few, number of people, and I think we can start now. So I'm continuing off from my last stream last week, where I was, well, to give a little more context, I recently started a MyAnimeList. I wanted to kind of venture into, figuring out what I've watched and kind of coming up with my own personal scoring matrix and or metric, and figuring out my top 10. And as I've gotten more into that, I had a good conversation with Shocking about it last week. And, this week I decided to invite, he reviews or kind of talks about, he's kind of like a critic, fellow Anituber, and talks about Anitube videos. He has the arduous task of watching all the Anitube videos that come out every week, or the majority of them, and kind of assigning scores to them.
Really just the ones I want to watch, actually.
Okay,
I try not to watch all of it. I would lose it.
but it's a lot, and some of them are range big videos.
Yes. Sometimes it takes a long time.
So because he has to assign scores, I'm like, you know what? It'd be great to get his perspective on this. And also, he made one of the most comprehensive videos on Gurren Lagann on the platform. So if you haven't watched it, I left a link to in the description for his video if you haven't checked that out.
Thank you for that.
And without further ado, I need to introduce Shaybs.
Hey, it's Shaybs, and welcome to another stream from OniMaru. It's good to have you. How are we doing here?
I think we're good. So I'm gonna pretty much talk about it, like some of the similar like questions I asked Shocking last week, but more specifically, so me and Shaybs have talked like a few times before this, like only twice, I think, but like for a good number of hours, about different things. And the one thing I never like got to ask, and I was curious because like on a previous thing that we did, I asked you like a question like, oh, like, I don't know, like what anime music or something did you like growing up, and you were like, oh, like growing up, what do you mean? So my, that made me curious. Like, so what's been your journey like so far with anime? How did you get into it? Kind of all that.
I've actually wanted to make a video about this, and I shouldn't say that right off the bat because then people are gonna be like, "Where's that video?" Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like this
But
could be like the temp, like the the
the tease, I guess.
yeah.
I had this. I won't go into what the video idea was. Maybe I'll tell you later. But yeah, I had watched some Ghibli films when I rented them out of the library, and I didn't know who like Ghibli or anything like that. I just saw a cool animated movie, right? That didn't like. It's like that thing where everyone goes with like Hollywood Video, right? They look at this animation, and it's like, whoa, that's not kids stuff, right? But like, it's still kind of cool looking. It didn't intimidate me. Like I was like scared to rent out Cowboy Bebop at the time because I was just like, I don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
But I was able to do like Cagliostro, Nausicaa, Laputa, eventually Mononoke, and all that. And I never thought much of it. It was just things that I liked. I didn't really grow up on like Toonami. I did watch like Toonami and stuff like that. Not Toonami, I'm sorry. I didn't see Toonami.
Oh,
It
okay.
was Toonzai. It was like four kid like Foxbox, then became Four Kids, then became Toonzai, and then they eventually phased out. But that was on like Saturday mornings because I didn't have cable, so I didn't have Cartoon Network, so I didn't have Adult Swim or
Hmm.
Toonami.
Interesting.
So I didn't have that sort of growing up period as most people. And then in high school, that was around in like 2009ish was when Netflix was starting to stream.
Yeah.
I still remember Netflix as the rental service.
Yeah.
I missed that actually. But they started to stream stuff, and they streamed a lot of anime. So that was where I kind of watched like basically my fandom has grown in phases. But I will say I never got as into anime as I am right now until college in like 2014, 2015.
Okay.
It was a very steady slope, and eventually kind of binged a bunch of crazy bangers in a row that ended up becoming a lot of my favorites and stuff like Evangelion, Gurren Lagann, and Full Metal Alchemist, but they didn't become my favorites really.
Yeah.
I like the Eva a lot, but it wasn't like a favorite like LGH, Berserk,
Yeah.
Monster, Rose of Versailles, Gundam. Like it's
I
like
feel
the
like
original Gundam, not Gundam Wing.
college is such a good time to just binge shows and get into
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Well, I didn't have any money as a college student, so I couldn't play game. I couldn't like purchase any video games, and
Okay.
I used to play a lot more games, but I drifted apart from it very significantly. I also found out that I'm kind of a very poor loser. Like I really hate. I really get very easily frustrated playing games. I guess if I'm not doing good or whatever, or whatever, I'm very picky and dumb. Um,
Like what game, for example?
Well,
Like
I recently bought a Switch after years of it been out. I skipped the
yeah.
Wii U entirely. But like
Yeah,
I
I
bought
did too.
I bought Shovel Knight and I was liking it, and then I got to this level. It was like the last level of like the Shovel Knight area, and it's like the dark castle thing. And there was a stage where if you've played that game, if you keep dying, you keep losing all your money and stuff very
Oh God.
steadily over and over, and it yeah, I couldn't. I couldn't get past it, and I was just very burnt out and very upset. And I have not touched it since. There's more game to play, but I just got so fed up with it.
Well, I've heard that game is meant to be, difficult. So
I guess, but it's not like Dark Souls or something,
that's
which
true.
like I don't even want to play because I know I hear about that, right? I know I just
Yeah.
get really pissed about it.
So
I'm just a baby like that. So, so I ended up sinking more and more into anime. So
so
yeah,
what
that's
when
about it.
what how old were you when you first when you watched the Ghibli films or Ghibli?
Like middle school, like when I was like 10 or 11.
Okay. And like you watched the
Yeah.
majority of them essentially.
Yeah, a lot of them. A good deal of them that were out at the time.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then yeah, pretty much.
And then it was until college that again you got introduced to all of these other great anime, and you got really into it because that's kind of
The three biggest things that sunk me into it was Kitsu, which was Hummingbird at the time, which is a database, type of anime database of sorts, and it's like Mal, right? I feel like I felt like when I found that you've experienced this very recently, you just kind of sink in and you're like, whoa, I've never seen this anime before. I'll throw that on the list, 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 and start keeping track of stuff. And it's like, all right, I want to get to watching this thing that everyone seems to really like or whatever. The second thing was was Kiss Anime, which was it's dead now. That's okay. By that point, I've learned to torrent, and I also try to watch anime legally. Verve is very helpful, especially watching like long running stuff like Naruto.
Yeah.
Like, because it's kind of a pain in the ass to download all of Naruto. Like it kind of sucks.
It really sucks.
So it's just not. I don't like it. So I don't bother. But then at the time, Kiss Anime had literally everything, and the way I was kind of like, oh, I want to watch this particular show, like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, for example. At the time, High Dive did not exist, and High Dive didn't have LOGH, which now it does. So you can watch LOGH legally now. And if I was to rewatch it, I would watch it that way. But yeah, at the time, I Kiss Anime had literally everything.
Okay.
So I felt the freedom to watch the original Gundam, and not, which also wasn't available like legally anywhere. Now it is on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, I want to watch Kaiji, and that was on Crunchyroll. We'll be fair.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Kiss Anime got me through college as well. Like anything that wasn't on Crunchyroll, because they did have Crunchyroll, it just
right. But Crunchyroll didn't have everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like and so it's like you'd watch like some seasonal stuff, but then what was really sinking me in was the was all these deep cuts and stuff. So yeah, and the third thing was actually that Anime Snob.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know who that is a former very prolific blogger on AniDB and Hummingbird and Mal, of course, but he got taken off of Mal. But he was like everywhere. So when I was this was like kind of before he started doing YouTube. So it was like before when I was on Hummingbird and was looking through all these titles to watch, I kept seeing his icon of this guy with a top hat, and he's like, "This popular anime is shit," It was like really highly rated or whatever. I was like, "Whoa!" And you click on his profile, he's seen 1,000 anime. I'm like, "Whoa!" This guy must really know his stuff. And what's his favorite anime? What's this Legend of the Galactic Heroes thing? And yeah. So that, and then, he had written other blogs, some reviews, but also like very basic. I remember reading on AniDB this like very basic crash course of like, okay, in the 60s, this aired and this aired and this aired and this aired and this is the general basics. 70s, this aired, this, and you kind of got the whole idea of the landscape and stuff, and that was very important to me and informing my taste.
So
it was
No, sorry to cut you off. Like I've heard murmurs of the anime snobs like reputation and stuff, but I didn't really know all of that. So
I mean, I give him full credit for helping me to be where I am, and I think he has the potential to do that for other people, and he certainly has. But he's been spending the last couple of years just kind of shitting on random Reddit comments and for Neverworld and Chibi reviews and me for some because I talked shit about one of his videos and then he he's a very vindictive person. Once you cross him, he'll never forgive you. And it's similar to his favorite anime. If he like likes a show, that he has like this list from like 2014 of like his 60 favorite anime, and there were so many that like I didn't recognize. So I was like, whoa, what's that? What's the Kai? That was the first time I ever saw Kaiji.
Yeah.
And I ever saw what Kaiji was. I'm like, that's so cool. And that's one of my favorites now. And that was so much of like shaping my, wow, I got to watch this sort of deal. But there's several titles on that list that since then he has rewatched and found some flaw in it or realized that it's shit, and he turns his back on it and never forget, never looks back.
Okay.
Never gives it the credit. I've never seen him turn around and be like, actually, this show that I shat on is actually good. It's either this show is good, or either it's shit or this show is good until I suddenly think it's shit and then it's shit. That's kind of how he works.
Now I'm curious, going a little bit away from just in general, like how has that kind of informed you as sort of like a reviewer, kind of critic? Because that's essentially what you do with Anituber Digest every week.
Yeah, thankfully Anituber Digest didn't happen. I wasn't even on YouTube in those times when I was very immersed in his line of thinking. Because I was a very insufferable person back then.
Right.
I was a lot more hypercritical and snobby and opinionated and angry. And, my friends can attest to that, the people who knew me in college, I think. But I actually can distinctly point to watching Ashita no Joe and finishing it in early 2016. That was like a very fundamental shift for me of just kind of like pure joy and love for a piece of media that like it kind of blew out all the cynicism out of me, and I didn't want to I didn't want to be a cynical fuck anymore. So that thankfully that happened before I started YouTube, and then other things kind of happened that I don't really want to talk about that motivated me to actually start, because I feel like there's always that barrier for people who don't do YouTube. They're like, oh, I might want to do YouTube. I'm thinking about it. And then there's that barrier of starting, like actually just doing it, right? And crossing that threshold is always really exciting and something to celebrate. And again, Snob actually, when I put my first video out, he put out like a small video that linked my video to. It was just to tell people that my video had dropped, and he had like 10,000 subscribers at the time, and it got me my first 100 subscribers and 1,000 views, which like is kind of a barrier that a lot of people have difficulty hitting.
Yeah,
and
for a small creator, that's awesome.
I know, it was so nice of him, and I always respect and appreciate that, and I never want to forget that. So yeah, no, he's really important to me, and it's I don't want to ever like try to hide or bury that, even though I do think his content now and his perspectives now are just really toxic and discouraging.
Okay.
When I know he's better than this.
Yeah. So shifting it away from him a little bit and bringing it back to anime. What's your sort of nowadays, now that you've kind of been indoctrinated into the anime community, you kind of have developed your taste. What's your sort of like personal philosophy about watching anime, or like are you selective with what you watch?
It's funny. The more that you watch, I think the more you realize it's like I just want to have fun. I don't want to like. I think especially when like you go out of your way like I have to watch a lot of these quote unquote important titles.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, I think you're going to just surrender to it and just like, I just want to have fun and like take it for what it is and not try to be my review of this, and be super critical or whatever. I just like having fun, and I like watching anime recreationally and not so much as like, this is my job or what. I don't want it to be my job. I want to work on anime, and I've been very fortunate to gotten a job with Discotheque Media. Well, with a company that does work for Discotheque Media, to the point where my name is now going to be on a couple of discs as an associate producer,
which you told me about, and that's just huge.
Yeah, I'm really excited and very happy to have done the work to, get this stuff out there and show it to more people, because I get a lot of joy out of showing people that. And it's like, dude, check this out, check this show out or this movie out. you want to watch it together? You know, experiencing it for the first time with other people. It's very special. I've grown a lot of memories with that. I was the president of my college's anime club for 3 years, where that was the whole thing of showing people this stuff and curating a collection for them, and it was wonderful. And so I'm
Yeah.
very happy to kind of start doing that professionally.
I can relate to being a president of an anime club, but not college.
Yeah.
High school, 4 years.
Hell yeah.
A founder and president.
Nice.
Dealt with some, well, there was more drama on my end. Dealt with some mutinies.
Well, yeah, I've, we all have those war stories.
Yeah.
But in terms of my philosophy with watching anime, I guess I want to have as broad of a understanding and appreciation for it as possible. Kind of get as much coverage for decades, directors, genres, studios, that sort of thing. Really be like, okay, I have, like, this year, 2021, last year, my roommates wanted to watch Bleach kind of on a whim together. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. So we watched a lot of Bleach. We got to a certain point, and then we have got more busy and kind of drifted away from it. But I don't like dropping things. If I commit to watching a series or a movie, I'm going to watch all of it.
That's respectable.
Yeah. Some people could disagree with that. There's a whole philosophy to that. But yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to finish Bleach. And so I watched all of it, and I was able to finish it by the end of 2020. So then I was like, well, I was going to watch the big three at some point. I never watched them because, based on my upbringing. So I was like, well, this is great because Bleach and Naruto are done, and I feel good at that. Like, I can just kind of experience them as a whole. I don't really want to jump into Jujutsu Kaisen because I'll just keep waiting for it to get new adaptations every year, and it's going to take way longer.
Yeah,
so,
and
same with Demon Slayer, Hero Academia, all these new shows.
Yeah, and like the discourse, at least for those completed shows, is kind of, that's, everything's been said. It's also kind of complete.
Yeah, and so all the hype's died down. So there's no tunnel vision. There's no huge fanfare. It's very refreshing. And so, like, I started watching Naruto in 2021. I'm watching 2 episodes a day. And so I'm already at the part where Gaara just, transformed into that big beast thing, and Sasuke's trying to fight it, and Shino just beat the puppet guy, and in that little part of Naruto, for those of you who are curious.
Yeah, that's before Shippuden, right?
That's way before. It's episode 72.
Yeah, that's
of the 72 of the original.
Naruto was pretty addicting around then. I remember watching that. I was actually surprised, that you were watching Naruto and Bleach like completely, because like from the general overview, that I've gotten of like your taste and sort of what you like, I was just like, oh, okay, I didn't think he'd be into that, So,
well, that's just it, right? I don't want to be like wholly like above. I feel like my my elitist self wouldn't have watched them, right? I feel like I could just believe the shitty take, the kind of the negative takes that people have, and just dismiss the positive takes as pure fanboyism. But that's shitty. And I also want to be able to talk about them myself. Like, I want to experience, I think they're very important pieces of media to a lot of people. So I want to be able to kind of experience and talk about them if I so want to, and not be like, oh, I haven't seen that,
I think it's big that you recognize that, that you don't want to be, kind of close off the conversation and kind of judge things without understanding where other people are coming from.
Yes.
And actually that I was going to bring this up later, but since you sort of brought it up, like, so what's your, being a, former quote unquote elitist, what do you think of elitists in the community now? Like in general, like, what do you think about people that are like that?
I think it's totally natural. I don't blame them at all, because I was that. And it's a phase that you kind of fall into, and then some people never fall out of. They kind of keep going in their ways because they like it. It has its benefits. I think it has its own community, and this sense of curation and taste, and like very careful whatever. I think it's fun in a way, but it has its own toxic side consequences, and it has some downsides, I think. But ultimately, I do not want to be cynical and burnt out on this medium in the way, and like, eventually kind of be a Ouroboros and slowly fall out of love with it and then just move on to something else with that same mindset, right? You're going to move on to something else like movies or
Yeah.
books or something, and you'll have the same mindset, and then you'll Ouroboros it into that, and then I'll move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame. I don't know. I see it not great. As a I think it has some long term negative consequences, but like, it's like, yeah, I see it like smoking, I guess. I don't know.
Okay,
I guess
that's
I guess that's
interesting way of
really
putting it.
I guess it's extreme,
It's
right?
a slippery
Because
slope, you know. It's that's kind of what you're
yeah,
trying
the
to
negative
express.
stigma around smoking, I guess. But there are things and reasons why people do it.
Like
Um,
there's a long-term effect on you as a person, you know. So that's
yeah, yeah, and it affects your demeanor, I think, in
like how you
general. I don't
engage
know.
with media, how you kind of
And engage with other people, which is important, right? In
I
your real life.
yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
I've come to appreciate that more and more as I've grown older, that it's kind of not really about being right, but just hey, understanding, you know, why they like this, where do they come from, you know, because that's
Yeah,
more fun.
definitely. And not to hold things loosely, I guess. Um, yeah, that's kind of it. But it's like, I don't judge them. But I kind of, yeah, I see that I feel like there's kind of some negative, toxic things about their mannerisms and way of thinking and objectivity and rules, and
For those
it's
that don't fall out of it, like do you think it's on them to kind of improve or to be better, or is it kind of just like, you know what, they're doing whatever they're doing, not my problem, you know?
I think so long as they're happy, and they're content in what they're doing, that's fine. Realizing that they're going to lose people, they're going to lose friends over it, over their behavior, I think, and kind of create this negative perception around people, because I feel like it's not like a mutual exclusive thing. You can be an elitist and also a really nice person, because
Yeah.
but like, I just think that it's too often where like people become too toxic online, and then people don't want to associate with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
then it's the way you express yourself that, you know, turns other people off.
yeah,
Unless you know how to have your opinions, but also say it in a way that, you know, doesn't put other people's taste down, I guess.
yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Well, that's a big thing of elitism, I think, is because it's the intent of putting other things down. That's part of the practice. It's to push the other things up. You take down the things that you don't like. You want to create that sense of contrast uh
Bring
to
up your
further
point.
hit home. Yeah, exactly. It makes a stronger argument, I guess,
Because
for
I feel
people.
like, yeah, no, I definitely agree. I feel like I've been analyzing this, that people could totally just be like, hey, that's just not my cup of tea. And that's it, you know, end of story. Like, oh, just, I'm not into
Yeah,
that. But it
yeah. I don't
doesn't,
want.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It was like, it's like, just because like I claim to not be an elitist anymore doesn't mean I watch a piece of media that everyone loves and then I'm very lukewarm or critical of.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy that. I don't go out of my way to talk about it very often, unless I'm asked about it, right?
Right.
Because because I know what it feels like for people to kind of dismiss or criticize unjustly some series that I really like, and that it shouldn't affect me emotionally, but it kind of does. You kind of get you kind of take some psychic damage, right, when you see someone slander this show, right?
Yeah. Because it's like,
So
if it resonated with you to such a level, it's kind of like, you know, why aren't they seeing, you know, kind of what I'm seeing? Or maybe it's
I
like,
don't.
you know,
Yeah, it
again,
might
it's,
be it might be unreasonable to say, or so some people, I guess. But I don't know. It's a sort of
yeah.
an inherent, like, because it makes you challenge. It makes you question kind of. It shouldn't. Again, it shouldn't. But it's like, it kind of makes you question your love for it. It's just like, am I wrong? Am I seeing something different here? Right?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
So
know.
I was gonna bring that up, and actually, I'm just gonna bring it up now. Like, um, do you ever feel like peer pressure to be more forgiving or lenient with an anime score because of, community consent, community consensus, or like what you just you said, someone kind of slanders it and now you're like second guessing, um, yeah, it's like, do you feel like,
I think it can get really messy if you do it like that, because it ends up disvaluing all of your scores, because it makes it all seem disingenuous. If this score is disingenuous, then what else is disingenuous? It kind of brings into question all of your other scores if you don't kind of hold your ground and be like, yeah, I didn't like that. I did not enjoy that. I gave it all the chance in the world. I watched the whole thing, and I didn't like it for
and
whatever reason. And I don't have to defend it. I don't have to talk about it either. I can just move on.
so you feel like you're valid, like if someone comes back at you, which usually I see this happen a lot, it's like, no, you just didn't understand it. You didn't understand the symbolism behind the scene. You didn't kind of grasp it, Like, does that
I just sort of don't engage with those. I don't engage with them and be like, all right, maybe I didn't.
No.
And then that's it. And then they're like, because they want something to do, right?
Yeah.
They're bored.
Yeah.
It feels like oftentimes it's like, well, I had nothing else to do today. I don't know. Maybe that's very, very rude and dismissive to say, I guess. But
it's so like you don't kind of feel the need to like, oh, maybe second guess, maybe look at it again, maybe kind of try to see maybe you were in a different mindset that day. It's kind of like you already know on a visceral level you didn't like it.
There is definitely nuance, and I'm not one of those people like my roommate who doesn't rewatch anything. Like they're very vehemently against rewatching things. Well, not like vehemently, right? But like if they had the choice, they wouldn't. Connor Sea Dog VA has expressed the similar things, right? And Joey would be like, why not?
Yeah.
So it's just the thing that it's just like how I don't drop anything. If I choose to watch something,
Watch it all the way through.
I'll watch it all the way through, right? That's just a matter of opinion, a matter of taste or whatever. Not taste, I guess, but approach.
Yeah, like your own personal philosophy, like how you.
Yeah, exactly.
That must make seasonal anime watching pretty tricky, huh? Like if you don't drop it.
That's why I don't do it anymore. as much because there was that case, and when I was doing it in like 2016, 17, there were several shows that I liked on kind of a surface level based on the cover, title, whatever.
Yeah.
And I would watch it and I'm like, yep, this is what I'm watching. I'm going to watch all of it. And it's mid.
Like if I went with that philosophy, this season would kill me. Like I checked out, I don't know, 17 shows at the beginning of the season, but nope, I'm not dropping a single one. Yep. You're
watching all of them. Right. And well, I recorded a podcast for Content. And we went over some of the winter seasonals and stuff, and they invited me to do that. They're like, here's the shows we would be covering. And so I was like, all right, I'll watch the first episode of these, but I am not planning to watch any of them.
Right.
So I'm going to watch these first episodes completely divorced from the idea of whether I like it or not, or whether I will continue. I'm going to drop it, right? A lot of people watch all of the seasonals all the first episodes of a given season to be like, I'll watch that one, I won't watch that one, kind of deal. Yeah. So when I suspect when they do that, there's this very judgmental eye, maybe not like in a harsh way, right? But it is kind of in a way they're judging whether they should watch more of this, right?
Yeah. And
they're asking themselves. To me, even if I liked a show, like I really liked Kimono Jihen, from that pool of shows I watched, because I was like, I'm not watching more of this. I already made that decision. Maybe afterwards, maybe some other time,
once it's complete
or something, right? I'm just gonna be like, yeah, but so I can enjoy it kind of divorced from that judgment, from that like a lady, like the justice, like holding the scales and being like, is it good? Is it bad?
Should I drop it? Should I not? 3-episode rule.
Right. And that also makes the not so great stuff, especially like the mediocre stuff, a lot more tolerable. because you end up kind of making like you kind of make a game out of it, being like, oh, I liked that music choice, or I like that little design there, like little bits here and there, and you're picking out the appreciative stuff,
Right.
and you're not trying to be as like, this isn't engaging me. You know
Because
what I mean?
that's I think inherently like it was some of the problems I see with we're talking about just picking and choosing, kind of weighing the options with just seasonal anime first few episodes, but in terms of scoring anime scores, I feel like with some people it does close the conversation. I've had a conversation to be like, hey, I checked this out, and I'm looking to like talk about it, and he's like, oh yeah, that was like a 6 out of 10, that was a 7 out of 10, that was like, and then it ends there, and it's just like, but there was, okay, maybe it was, or maybe it was mid, or like there was this one cool scene or this one part, or I like that they did this, I want to kind of appreciate that. It's kind of like, oh no, it's a 7, that's a like
Yeah, and that's okay. It is what it is. Like, and you're right when you were talked about like if you're in the right headspace, or if you've seen certain shows or enough shows to kind of get something to click. The example I always think about when it comes to that is I watched Gundam, right?
mm-hmm.
And I early on, and then I watched Zeta, which is the sequel, and I didn't like Zeta very much. I liked Gundam, the original Gundam, for it was fine, but there was just stuff about Zeta that was just really annoying, and whatever reasons, right?
Right.
And I didn't like it, but that was disappointing to me because so many people I had seen with their lists and stuff had Zeta on their favorites and their tops, right? And not the original. It was like that was the one, and I was really excited about it, but it didn't work out. And then that was also back when Double Zeta, the sequel after that, and Victory Gundam, the sequel after that. Those two shows were very widely panned, and so as an elitist, I'm like, I'll never watch those, right?
Yeah.
But after that phase, I watched a couple more Tomino shows. The guy who directed and so I'd seen Turn A Gundam. That was also one that a lot of people love, and it's this best thing ever. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was good, about good as the original Gundam for me. And I watched Overman King Gainer, which is one of his original shows. That's not Gundam.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. There was something about the dialogue, and I noticed it in Turn A. And I mentioned this in my Girl Magon video. Gainer was the one that Gainer's the one that turned me into a Tomino fan. That I was like, wow, his characters are wild and ridiculous, and they talk so stiff and wooden. And like it's very weird, but very ambitious and like melodramatic and fun. And there's a wackiness to it that I was enamored by, and I really liked King Gainer. And then I watched Ideon, and that was like that's like one of my favorite mecha series. Everything clicked, and it was perfect. So now I'm really excited to rewatch Gundam and Zeta, and then finally get to Double Zeta and Victory as a Tomino fan, right? Yeah. And I have a better understanding of better context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that, like, I think, it's not going to, how did that make you feel? Like that you didn't enjoy, Zeta as much as all these people that have been raving about it? Like initially, not, I know you're planning to rewatch
Very
it.
Disappointed.
Okay.
It's discouraging, right? Especially the way I go about watching things, where it's like I'm very clout chasey in a way. I really like kind of get the history of the medium and being like, this is Zambot 3 is important because it's a predecessor to Gundam. Mm-hmm. So I watched that, but I haven't seen Daitarn 3 or Raideen, which are the kind of two shows in between that are also Tomino shows that are also good, but they're not as like, they don't have this specific precursor type of context as Zambot. So as I'm very targeted in the way. Mm-hmm. I watch Akagi no An because a lot of people respect that one, and it's directed by Takahata, etc. But like out of that historical context and the context of people's favorites, I don't know. I wouldn't think twice about it. I would just see it as like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these kind of like masterpiece theater shows that are adapting this classic English literature. There's a Sound of Music anime, actually. It's the Von Trapp family. But it's anime.
It's like an anime for everything.
Yeah, right. That's what I love about it so much. There's so much versatility and diversity, and it's wonderful. It's such a creative, expansive, and also like not that old, right? It's not like
Yeah.
music or books where it's in all different. It could be in any language, and all. It's very centralized to this country, and it's only about 50 or 60 years old. And it feels manageable in a way, in a
Right.
weird, you know, not so much, but it's comprehensible, I guess.
Okay. But in regards to taste, so you sort of the way, like going back to where we're talking about Ideon, and is Ideon universally kind of praised, or it's kind of there's a general.
It's a little. I think it's largely appreciated, especially its connection to Evangelion as kind of
Mhm.
a predecessor to that in a way, and being one of Anno's favorites, as well as Gundam, of course. He loves Gundam.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there are definitely elitists that like they'll have problems with it or whatever, and that a lot of you'll notice on Mao specifically, there's a lot more average sixes and sevens or fives for the older stuff than there is the newer stuff, right?
Mhm.
A lot of users on Mao who are bothering to watch this stuff and put it on their list are just generally a lot more critical and will give stuff a 4 or 5 or whatever.
Mhm.
But you think of the majority of MyAnimeList users where they're just watching a lot of the recent stuff or the very popular top of Mal type of thing, and they're very willing to give out 10s, 9s, 8s a lot more frequently. That's just
Easily.
something that's something I very much suspect with Mal. It's like that's why a lot of these older stuff usually, and that's why it's like a really big deal when something that's older than 1990 has a score of above an 8.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit. Even the old kooks love this one. Right.
So now that we're talking about that, do you feel like these newer anime fans or anime fans in general should culture themselves on older anime and get to know the staff behind it? Do you feel like that should be something anime fans should do?
I say yes, only because that has enriched my life so much and has grown my love. And it's in a way, and I talk about this in my Gurren Lagann video, because I've looked into this and learned about these people's names and their histories, and have dug as much as I have. I don't feel like, even if my career changes at this point, I'm always going to be an anime fan.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it's a phase for people. They'll move on to something else where it's like, yeah, I like anime. I've seen what are a couple, right? I'm happy it's getting more mainstream because that just lifts the entire floor for people, because it's like you think in the 90s they only had access to very popular titles, and whatever was brought over. Like Akira was underground in the 90s, and
Right.
it's not by any
Which
means
is
now,
so
right?
hard to believe that, now, everyone
Yeah,
knows about
yeah,
Akira.
or the Ghibli films, the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it was in this other country and everything, and this is great history with bringing stuff over from the west to the west and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really, I get kind of envious of those people because it's always just really interesting and exciting. But I love the time that we're in now, because at this point we are literally, we have these online databases that have cataloged everything,
Right.
like the everything, and including stuff that has never been subtitled yet. There's these anime that look gorgeous. There's this one that is getting subbed right now by some fans called, I need to make sure I pronounce it right. I think it's Shonan. It's a delinquent anime. It's from the 80s. It's OVA, and it's one of those like delinquents like Konoyaro, like
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, right? But it's so gorgeous. It has like a Blu-ray release. It's really good colors. Shonan Bakuzo Zoku, or Bomber Bikers of Shonan.
Shonen
Um, I'll try to. Yeah, I
Bakuzo.
need to find. I need to find some like screen caps,
Huh.
but
That's interesting.
it like the covers obviously because of they've been uploaded there since like 2010 or something, right?
Yeah.
It looks very unassuming based on those covers and stuff, and then you know, you're in these Discord servers that have a lot of anime fans, and sometimes they have a channel that is dedicated to screen caps, and they dump all their screen caps, right? And that's
Yeah.
a very fun activity in watching anime. I don't gauge into it so much myself, as in like I do too many screen caps. I don't do that too often, but I
Yeah.
love seeing other people's screen caps and like finding these finding this stuff like what, it looks that good, or like what's that, and you would never expect it based on the cover,
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
it's so exciting. But
Yeah,
that
like
stuff, yeah,
when I see people
sorry.
get these screen no, it's okay. When I see people get like these screen caps sometimes, like and I've watched these anime and I guess I never realized like when you see it freeze frame, like there was these really beautiful scenes within that anime. I was like, oh, okay, I don't remember that. Or I vaguely remember that. I was like, oh, this is just
You're right,
you
like
know,
when you watch Evangelion, right? Because you're
yeah,
so caught up in like what's gonna happen to Shinji
yeah.
that you see a shot and you're like, wait, what? You know, because you
Yeah.
know,
You
especially the
appreciate
first
it.
time, yeah, especially going through something the first time, all you're thinking about is kind of like the plot and what's going on, and you know, especially a lot of newer fans, that's really what they care about. But then
Yeah.
I feel like the more you watch, the more it's like, I just like how it looks, you know? I just like that cool outfit that Sasuke is wearing, right? It's
Yeah.
like, who cares what's going on so much as it's like, you know, you're enjoying it in that way, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you kind of have to
Yeah,
watch it a few times to, pay attention to those details
or
and
yeah, for sure.
unless
But yeah,
yeah, you go in it from
sorry.
the different mindset of I don't know, like I'm just gonna observe, I'm not gonna commit to this anime like you were talking about earlier, and you're just gonna look at the music choices or look at maybe in when you go in that mindset you'll pick out those things more often.
For sure. You know, and some people have their, you know, they're different, wired differently or whatever, right? But
That's so true.
yeah. But you know what, Cineclinic? This kind of reminded me of where we're talking about like the, you know, anime viewers, they care so much about the plot, whatever. There was a section from Cineclinic's latest video on people don't know how to talk about animation,
Yeah.
and there's this bit that he talks about MyAnimeList where it's very odd how they weight story and characters is like 60% or 70%, and then animation sound is like, yeah, it's good or whatever. You know, and then there's very, very, very little talk about that.
I think a lot of the times, from what I've seen, not from Mal, but just in general, like conversations with people, like they sometimes like they kind of don't look at anime as the medium, and just
Yeah.
more of storytelling, and storytelling is important, but then they just go by the storytelling rules, which is, characters are one of the most important things in stories. So between that and the plot, it's like, okay, it could look like shit, but as long as it had a good story, we're good.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I would rather it look good than have a good story, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
Because at least it's a kind of it's kind of a spectacle type of thing. And especially because it's like with the story, right? I think there's just more that you can kind of pick apart, and there's like the idea of a plot hole doesn't exist when it's like an experimental animation that's like really
Yeah.
cool or powerful or emotional. Like gives a fuck about plot holes, right?
Yeah.
You know, and these rules and stuff. The animation is such a free, uh, wild, varied, and imaginative, creative, incredible medium, and it's you know, I feel like that carries so much to it. And also I think some people don't really appreciate how their perception can get warped based on how something looks. For example, you know, funny little side thing that was funny. Um, I was watching Naruto, and you know they do those things occasionally where, because it's a long running show, uh, they distribute the care and attention uh, episode to episode. So there's like an episode that looks really really good, and there's like it's incredible animation and whatnot.
Right.
And a lot of the times the episodes leading up to it are not so good. You know, I don't want to call any animation bad per se, but it is just kind of like it's less impressive. And there was a scene where Sasuke showed up to the tournament and he's in a new outfit. And I had been told by my roommates who are huge Naruto fans that, oh, his new outfit's so sick and it's really cool. And I was looking forward to it. And then at that episode here, he shows up, just so happens to not look very good, all things considered. It's looked better. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that fit sucks. I was let down by the fit, by his outfit. And then so like I complained to my roommates, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. You know? Yeah. And then I watched a couple episodes afterwards, and it's like, no, actually I do like this outfit because whatever reason. Because it looked better, because it was drawn with more attention and more detail. Yeah. So I feel like those things can very subliminally affect people's thoughts about that they wouldn't even realize. So it's like maybe they just didn't like the character designs because they all kind of emoted the same or didn't emote very much, and so they didn't connect with the scene the way they should have. So that but then they'll just blame that like it's poor writing. No, no, it was just poorly shot, or there was some other
execution,
reason. Yeah, exactly. It's and I think that needs to have nuance. It can't just be like the characters are bad. Which characters? How are they poor? Like, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Because if you just be like, it's bad, you're just gonna be circle jerking. It's bad, like all over the fucking place. It's who cares, right? There's no nuance and a better understanding of things. It's useless to me. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You kind of have to try to, not parrot the same opinions. It's try to really understand why it is bad for you, or what's not clicking. And it's sometimes not just like we said, the writing. It could be other factors, because animation is more components than just the writing. It's all these things working together. And I can clearly see you're really passionate about the medium, because it's just gone beyond the story. It's really what animation can do in general. So we were talking earlier about if anime fans should go and kind of culture themselves on older anime and the staff. So, and it kind of just depends. But if you're a person that plans to stay in the anime community for the long haul and to kind of be involved in the discourse and to have an opinion and to be informed, then do you think it's a necessary requirement?
I think you just get more enriched that way, right? I get enriched all the time by, like I said, seeing the screen caps that people post, because they're watching different things. They have different priorities or whatever. I think that I don't know. I certainly appreciate the fact that people have already been where I've been, and they go explore the medium and watch a bunch of stuff, and they're like, yeah, that was actually really good, or whatever. And then, when you see other people develop those opinions and be like, yeah, that was excellent, you like the things that they like for what you've seen, right? It's like, oh yeah, I've seen that and they like that, so I'll like that too. Sort of deal. I think that's a very basic feeling of it, but yeah, I think it's important. It's not necessary. I don't want to say anything is necessary when it comes to being a fan, because you don't want to gatekeep, right?
No, that I definitely agree with that. That's going back to what we were saying about being cynical, or kind of putting off people, or you're kind of putting up a barrier.
Yeah.
And people might not be interested in that. They might not. They don't want to engage with anime in that way. They want it to either be casual, or they like what they like, and that's it. They don't want to, and that's valid too.
Definitely. But it gets to the point more when like you want to start talking about it, and you want to start coming off as like, I want people to listen to me.
Yeah, like if you want to be an authority on it.
It's like, if you want to talk about shonen stuff, I think it's a good thing. But if you want to talk about Naruto, you should watch Naruto.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe other shonens that came before it too.
Oh, I mean, sure. You know, I'm not gonna berate you if you haven't seen Kinnikuman or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you're gonna talk, like you're right, you're spot on. If you're gonna talk about Naruto, you have to watch Naruto. But then if you're gonna talk about shonen in general and only use Naruto, as an example, then it's like, all right, you're
yeah,
limiting yourself.
it only gets you so far. It
Yeah.
kind of is just like, yeah, okay. and it doesn't have as much insight as so much
Right.
added stuff because a lot of people have just seen Naruto, right? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think if you, I do trust I do like appreciate and listen to a person's opinion more if they're like, if they're referencing this stuff from Saint Seiya or Fist of the North Star or something, and they kind of have an understanding of what the goals are. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
But even go so far as to like read the author, read interviews with the author. I'm sure there's plenty of them, or interviews with the staff or whatever.
Or
If you, I think doing research is
or
good.
even understand the animation principles, because a lot of times there'll be fans that'll try to be authorities kind of like on the animation and talk about all the stuff that they kind of don't really know about. It's kind of
Yeah, it's funny. That Cineclinic video I mentioned does talk also about this idea of the 12 principles, and it's actually there's different sentimentalities to it, right? Because the West learn and have grown up around animation in their own way, and then the Disney's Nine Old Men or something, they have
yeah.
like these specific principles, and anime doesn't play by those principles as much. Like they might reference them in some places, like, oh, if you want to, act this, act like this sort of
Yeah.
deal. But they have their own books and their own history to cite from as well. Like especially with when it comes to like their influences, like they kind of watch stuff that was in their country when they were kids.
It's so interesting that anime, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure about this, that anime branched off from, the original influence was from Disney, but then, kind of became its own thing entirely. With
Yeah,
yeah.
it was funny. I have not read into pre Astro Boy stuff as much,
Yeah.
but from what I've learned about it, what little I've learned about it, is they did do animation. They kind of figured they found it their own way, similar to how we inevitably, the West didn't invent animation in the same way.
Yeah.
But I think there is definitely something to be said about Disney being the first to go so far as to make a feature-length animated film.
Yeah.
And that was such a big milestone for the medium because it really showed people that it wasn't just something that could play at the beginning of a movie, of the real movie. Let's get to the actual movie.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be the movie. It could be the content.
Yeah, that they could be the thing you go to. And because especially what I had heard about what I've seen of documentaries of Walt Disney, Steamboat Willie had gotten so popular, like people would start going to the theater for Steamboat Willie, and it would not simply the movie that they were actually going to, and so there was something there. It was like, wow, this is actually popular. This could actually be something people want and enjoy, and also push the medium forward. Like Steamboat Willie itself was such a phenomenon because it was a technological advance. It was at least, I believe, as far as we know, it was really the first high profile instance of synchronizing music, like a sound effect to which like is so huge, right? It's like the steamboat like doing the toot toot as the thing goes. It's like a no-brainer to us, but that was that was mind-blowing back then.
It pretty
It's
much
like,
changed the
holy
game
shit.
because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
went from something that was just paper, to
yeah.
syncing up with
Yeah, usually it was a lot like it went the same way as like silent film, where like they didn't have sound at first, and so they just played music over it, so it wasn't just awkward and quiet. And then that was the first time there was like, oh my god, Mickey is whistling and I hear whistling, holy shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is a lot of credit to be had with Disney doing that, and I would imagine it did inspire Toei to make those films. But there's also others, it's like any medium, like books or music or whatever, where there's there's a history of Russian animation. There's which has its own influence on anime. There's French, whatever, what have you, right?
Right.
Everyone kind of goes in their own history and their own direction with them. I just like anime in particular, just because I don't know, the way it ended up with adapting manga the way it did, and because of the way manga developed with Tezuka, and they were willing to do a lot of weirder, more boundary pushing stuff, and then give them the platform and the money to like make an animation out of it, right? Because I don't know how much you've read comic books. I don't read too many comic books myself, right?
Comic books? No, not really.
Yeah, but it's like the advent of like, how cool it was that like Walking Dead got a live action adaptation and it got so popular, right? That's based on graphic novels.
Exactly.
But you think about these other graphic novels that are out there and other comic books. I fucking watched this one that Nerdwriter talked about, which was it was the original Captain Marvel. It was like the British Captain Marvel. But they obviously had to change it because of copyright things. So
I hadn't heard of
they
that
changed
one.
it. They changed it to another name. I forget what it was. I have to look it up.
British Captain Marvel.
Well, it was Nerdwriter. If I do Nerdwriter Captain Marvel.
British Captain Marvel. I'm looking it up on my end.
Marvel Man. They named it to Marvel Man. That video he did, the video he did talked about that particular comic. That particular superhero was like, it was literally that. It was a knockoff of Captain Marvel. And then they stopped that. And then Roger Moore, I might have gotten that. I think it's Roger Moore. It's the guy who wrote Killing Joke.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
And those things. I might be very dumb and bad. Sorry.
I think that's his name.
It's not like that. Yeah. Marvel Man. He wrote a series using Marvel Man, and it was super deconstructive and fucking weird and awesome. It was fucking sick, and I loved it. I loved that comic. Having watched this video and Nerdwriter talks about it. It was sick, and having written that was written in like the 90s or like 80s and 90s and such. And you think about like if that was a Japanese manga. Yeah. If that was in Japanese, that would have gotten an anime. That probably would have gotten an anime, or at least an OVA or something. That was just how lucrative and how willing they were to animate things. I just feel like there was a more likely chance that would have happened. So
I don't know. Things get anime faster than an adaptation in the West for like a live action. Although now it's a little different. I feel like a lot of things get adaptations now, but. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole thing right to it with like remakes and such, and also just making them their own thing. Like, oh, this is the cartoon. This is the different from the comics. It's not like they're not going to animate. They're not going to make an adaptation of like the TMNT comic, like the original TMNT comic. No, they're going to make the cartoon, which is its own thing. And
especially that the anime industry model is more like, we're just going to do this. Like this will promote, the source material. Like it's not like the Western adaptation doesn't do that too, but it's like they're trying to be lucrative and kind of just make it into its own thing that, generates a lot of money, as opposed to, which, anime is doing too, but they don't adapt all of it. It's just to a certain extent. And then that promotes the source material.
Yep. And that's always a very interesting story. Just that the nature of adaptation is so fun and interesting to me. Yeah. I started my channel kind of not quite around that, I guess. But at least one of my videos is kind of an adaptation story, and I'm a sucker for them. Just kind of they're like, oh, how many chapters did they adapt in this episode to this episode, and what does that mean for the ramifications and things?
That's kind of interesting. Like I've never like looked too closely into that, but now more recently, as I'm like watching anime and kind of comparing it, like, oh, what did they take out from the manga? What line? What was the difference? And then you try to think like, because when you adapt things for the screen, you have to make those changes, and then it's kind of trying to figure out like why that was necessary and why it couldn't have worked. I don't know. I can see how that is interesting.
Oh yeah. I think it's, especially if you like the work and you care about it, I think it's something that it's just another section of fandom. It's the same thing as like, cosplay, or everything's equally valid when it comes to interaction with the medium, with the particular story that you're engaging with. Even if it's just watching it, that's fine. And then you move on to something else. That's okay. That's great. and I celebrate and encourage it.
What do you think of what do you think of, okay, like, I don't know, past few years, maybe past decade, maybe it's been a while, or maybe it's just kind of the thing that everyone always just likes to parrot in the community, that, anime is sort of becoming trash. There's a ton of mediocre anime. There's only a few good gems every now and then. All of that. Like, and like, there's a lot of trashy anime every season. Like, do you kind of agree with that? Do you see that? Do you think that's just kind
of I think a lot of people who do that lament the fact that there's nothing that they want to engage with stuff that's exciting and new. And also I think that they are just craving that the thing that is new because everyone's watching it and everyone will be able they want something to be part of the discussion. But I watched Ongaku, Our Sound, last year.
Okay.
And it was literally one of my favorite anime. One of my favorites of the year. Like, not even the year, this is several years. I loved it. I watched it 4 times, and I've pre-ordered it and can't wait to show it to as many people as possible. That's a new title, but no one's talking about it. The writer of Phil Lord is talking about it. I'll have you know. I've retweeted it twice.
Wow.
2 different tweets. He's like, Ongaku, why is no one talking about it? That's right.
That's pretty.
I think it's because they're not watching it.
Okay.
And it's because like they're not, so to me, it's like they're just looking for things to complain about, but also they want something to engage with and to watch. They want good stuff, and that's totally fine and innocent to have. But it makes the thing that always comes to my mind is, okay, go watch the thing that's cool that you definitely haven't seen yet. All of us have plenty of stuff in the backlog in the past that's fantastic, and it's just as it doesn't have to. Who cares if it's 30, 40 years old? Like, that's the thing that you want, right? So it's like, why are you looking for that in the new stuff and be like, oh, this past decade, my crops, water my crops?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? These aren't crops. That you shouldn't be thinking it in those terms, to me. I am so preoccupied with the fact that I haven't seen Naruto and One Piece and all of these shonen titles that I'm not complaining that this season is trash. Like, who cares?
So you don't feel like that's bad? Like, you don't feel like the quality of anime or anything has dropped? Like, there's no issue. It's sort of just, it's been. It's the same.
I think that's like what you said last time about the thing bad, right? And there's no it robs a bit of its nuance. We want to talk about like mecha is dead, and if you just say mecha is dead, then it's like, all right, okay, and there's not much to it besides that. But you want to have some like nuance and like talk, like actually have some genuine conversation and dig into this stuff. Really look into what I did on my second channel with these live streams. I went through all of the mecha titles on Mal, and with my own discretion, kind of be like, yeah, that's not really what I mean by mecha, because they label some things as mecha, and it's not really what I'm talking about, right? But I went and made that list and marked down all the ones that were new titles. That was just like, oh, this is a brand new thing. This is not based on whatever. Maybe it's the first time it's gotten an anime. Maybe it's based on a mobile game. Maybe it's based on a book or a manga or whatever. But it's new for anime. So I marked that down, and then I also marked the ones that are part of a franchise. It's like, oh, this is another installment in the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, right? And I feel like there's something kind of different to that, where people are like, oh, mecha is dead. But it's like, no, there's plenty of Gundam that comes out and other titles from these other franchises that are great. But I think what they're talking about is the new stuff. Like, they want like a new title that isn't a Gundam or whatever. And from there, it's like, okay, there is a bit of a decline I found when it comes to the percentage of new titles to franchise titles.
Yeah.
The sheer quantity of anime coming out is getting more and more every decade. That's just, how it is.
Every season, there's just a lot, compared to 10 years ago in a season. It's just a ridiculous amount now.
Yeah. And so naturally, there are technically more mecha coming out than ever before. And not to mention, there is to factor in like I said, that backlog, like that having access to these mecha titles like we've never had before is really cool and exciting. The company I work for, Discotech, we've been releasing a number of very old, random, not very popular mecha titles like Laserion, Daltanius, you know,
Yeah.
who can't, you know, like what, like, whatever. But like if you're craving mecha, there's plenty of mecha to watch. You have not seen all of it. You know, don't be complaining that mecha is dead when you haven't seen this and this and this show. Like I haven't seen Eureka 7 yet. I'm not gonna go out and be like Mecha's dead. Like
it's
I
funny.
Eureka 7.
It's funny that you mentioned Eureka 7. My friend, well, I don't think he cares anymore, but he recommended that to me. I think the first time I met him in like Anime Club, and that was like it was a long time ago. It was like 15 years ago. I still haven't watched it.
Of course. I mean, people recommended me Steins Gate, and I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
right? There's plenty.
Well,
There's
I saw that.
plenty. Hell yeah, no, plenty have.
Well, I did hear you have a huge plan to watch list, so
yeah, like 500 something titles.
so you have plenty to contend with there. You know, so you're not really worried about what's coming out seasonally, and I think that's what, you know, once you're on the seasonal bandwagon, it just kind of it morphs you. You know?
No, I think it certainly gets you deeper into it, and I think you care more about the studio, and you naturally learn a lot more. And that was a big part of how I got so much into anime as I did, was watching the latest stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think eventually you're gonna burn. I do think eventually there's a limit, and people be like, you know, you know. I feel like there's a fatigue that comes with it, and I definitely hit it. And when I didn't watch any in when I didn't watch any in 2018, and then 2019 and now 2020, I just felt way better personally. I just felt way freer to watch stuff and be excited for this. Oh, I haven't seen this. Yeah, let me go jump into it. And there's always that conversation about getting into this stuff and like, oh, but it's so many episodes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like I've seen 120 episodes of anime or more this month, the first month of 2021, but I did, because I watched 2 episodes of Naruto every day and 2 episodes of Hunter x Hunter 99 every day. And so I finished Hunter x Hunter 99 in a month because of 62 episodes, you know. So you just have to do it, right?
Yeah. I mean,
the time is an illusion.
Yeah. Okay. No. Well, I don't know if I agree on the maybe
time is an illusion part.
You know what? It's a different conversation. But
that's what I mean. Yeah, it is. It's a whole thing.
I mean, I'm horrible. Like you're very meticulous, and you kind of space things out. You know, watch 2 episodes a day. You get it done. I'm just like, all right, 120 episodes. I'm into it. 2 days, 3 days.
Great. That's also very valid.
Yeah,
I watch fucking no. Sometimes I you know, that strategy that I have, I make a mark of like, okay, this is the date. Today I have this. I'm up to this episode, and tomorrow I have these 2 episodes, and the day after I have these 2 episodes. So I kind of have like a time sensitive thing.
Yeah.
And I can let that build up over time and not watch it for a couple of days, or watch ahead, and that's fine too. There's really no rules to this. It's just a matter of like whatever is comfortable for you. If there were times in 2018 where I didn't have that schedule. I'm doing that schedule now after not doing it in like 2020 or 2019. But in 2018, I realized that Gintama was almost done. It was finishing.
Yeah.
And so it was going to be 365 episodes. That's an episode a day. Ooh.
Oh,
you know, and there's that kind of like, oh, yeah, okay.
I commend your way of thinking. You know, definitely.
Yeah, but like, well, I definitely need that kind of hook to be like, oh, Hajime no Ippo and Ashino Joe are both boxing anime, and they're the same number of episodes.
To be transparent with you, regarding Gintama, I heard the final movie was coming out in January, back in December, And I had never
Yep.
watched it. I never got the appeal. I don't know. And I was like, you know what? I was literally thinking of catching up to all of it in December just in time for the movie.
Well,
And
yeah.
you maybe make a video on it.
Ah.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I probably would have died.
Yeah. Especially Gintama, where there's a lot of episodic stuff and it's a lot of comedy.
I haven't done a huge binge like that since One Piece in college. That was kind of
Hell
it
yeah.
was a while.
Yeah.
Let me so we talked a little bit about scores. Let me move on to another section of this. More interesting thing I've cooked up for this. Which I already gave you a heads up. So I had asked you to like sort of give me a list of anime that you like aren't completely universally acclaimed. You know, they're either people either consider them sixes, sevens, fives, you know, not anything like a favorite or a masterpiece, but that you love and then or you think are much better than people say. And then also the reverse, anime that are popular that you know you don't care for, you don't think are as good as people say they are. So I to start it off, we'll start it off with the first list with ones that you like a lot. And some of them actually happen to be on your top 10 list. I've seen like I think one or two. I'm gonna focus on the ones though that like I've watched because I don't know how much I'll be able to say about the ones that I haven't. So like one of the ones on here that you gave me was Wolf's Rain. That has on Mal a 7.82, and you said you really like it.
Yeah. I really fuck with it. I liked the kind of the dreariness of it, but it had this really delicate balance of like nature versus technology. It had this kind of weird sense of technology to it, and like I loved how dusty and it kind of reminded me of like Ergo Proxy or Technolize, with this kind of like alien sort of wasteland sort of deal. Not alien, I guess, but it's alien as in the adjective, not the.
It was very haunting. You know the outro ending song, the visuals.
Edie's amazing. Also the OP. I do like the OP as well. But yeah, it was just so cool. And I don't need friends, the fucking and like well what was it? What are you looking for? Paradise. What will you do when you get there? Shoot, I forgot. I always shoot.
I have not
or something
watched it in a long time, so I vaguely remember it, but I do remember watching it. I don't know the discourse around it. Like, I guess for you to list it, I'm guessing it's been panned, or maybe people weren't happy with it.
Been weird. Yeah, people have been weird about it. I think they were going in with weird like that. Like that guy's weird, and I don't know. I've always felt it's not as beloved. I guess it's not talked about in the same breaths as Cowboy Bebop, when not like I like it as much as Cowboy Bebop, but it's just like these people who like Cowboy Bebop would probably really like this. I think.
I think people were like maybe not satisfied with the ending or the story or the conclusion. Maybe is that where that's coming from?
Well, that's interesting, right? I think it's one of those, at least to my mind, it's like the people who love it especially for the ending. The ending is crazy, and it kind of has that end of Ava, Idion be invoked, very finale, characters die kind of feel. I don't know. I haven't seen as many people pan the OVA as much as the show, but I wouldn't be surprised. Right, I really don't know too much about the discourse. I just feel like there's not enough discourse about it.
Because the ending was an OVA, right?
Yeah, 4-episode OVA.
Okay, yeah, I remember watching
because there's four recap episodes, but they're cool. That was actually really interesting because they each take from the perspective of one of the four main characters, and then they tell a different facet of the story. I thought it was kind of interesting. But it was very clear that those four, they just weren't. It was something with the schedule or something, because clearly those last 4 episodes were intended to be on the original runtime, but they did something else, sort of deal. So yeah, it's like, yeah, technically it's supposed to be a full 26 episodes, but I think that's why.
Yeah, I'd have to really rewatch. It's been a long time, but I don't remember. I don't know. It just didn't like. I was really into it at the time, and then I guess after it ended, it just didn't stay in my head. Maybe I wasn't maybe happy with the ending, or maybe I was confused as to what happened, and I was like, okay, I
I'm
don't
not
know.
attached to it the same way I am some other shows. There are some anime that like I think about a lot more. They just kind
Right.
of come to my head as like, oh hell yeah. But every time someone mentions Wolf's Rain or I see it in my favorites or kind of, passing whatever, I'm like, yeah, I liked that. Yeah. you know.
Yeah. But what you like most about it though is the aesthetic, the visuals, and that's like what that kind of pops in your mind when you think about it, right?
Definitely. I don't remember as much about the story and like, oh, this character's motivation or something like that. It's more like the feel of watching it and some of the contemplative episodes. I remember this one contemplative episode following not one of the wolves, but like one of the humans and like the hunter guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that was because it felt like kind of a road trip type of thing, and it was just really cool and nice.
Okay, so like, because I'm getting a feel sort of for your taste, because I remember earlier in the conversation you were saying at some points you're just like, fuck story. It's
Yep.
sometimes you'll take something that just looks great aesthetically, does something ambitious animation wise, doesn't matter if there's a plot hole or some stupid plot point or whatever.
I make this point in my Lupin video that is going to come out Monday. Monday.
Shameless plug.
Hell yeah. But well,
You gotta do what you gotta
there's
do.
a part where I mentioned this one very mediocre Lupin special that was like I said that the only thing I remember about that special is that it had better music than the other ones because it had this character. It was like a side character who was a singer, and occasionally they would like cut to her in this bar and she'd be singing and stuff. And it was just like, yeah, this is nice, and it's. I liked it, and I said it. It's like she didn't matter much to the story, but it didn't matter. She was more compelling than whatever the story was. Like very dismissive of the story of this particular Lupin special. It's really, I think there is as much emphasis there. And obviously, I want a good story or whatever. But if it's just like iCity, which is just a bunch of crazy shit, I'm down with it. I fuck with it.
Okay, that's interesting. So okay, I think with that, I need to bring this one up because I need you to explain this one to me. Cypher.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
before this whole thing started, today's stream, I went and watched it. I watched the whole thing.
Yo.
I was like, I was gonna watch some of the other things you told me because I wanted to kind of really kind of compare, but I was like,
but you're like, oh, this is only 40 minutes.
Yes, I'm like, if I can watch at least one thing, and this is the lowest scored thing, we need to talk about this, and you made it a point to say, listen, man, I genuinely love this. Like, it's not so bad it's good. I genuinely love this.
It's cool.
And I watched it. I think the expected reaction, very confused, very bewildered. I did read as much as I could around it, to kind of get more context, to understand what I was watching, why it was made, whatever. But, it didn't help too much to understand really what was going on. I was fine with the first...
Did you watch past the credits with the behind the scenes stuff?
Yes, I watched the whole 40 minutes. I was like, I need to give a full,
Yeah,
I need to watch
think that explains it pretty well enough. Where they were like, "We wanted to make an MTV thing, let's fucking go."
The problem, I watched it on YouTube, and the problem with the one I was watching, it didn't have any subtitles for the Japanese.
Yeah, those interviews haven't been subbed yet. I believe it. I think people have tried, but it's just because I think the Laserdisc was like very close. They weren't subbed for a long time because the Laserdisc was the version we had before the Laserdisc version. Had even worse audio, so it was just impossible to make out what they were saying.
Right.
You had to do it by ear. There's no transcriptions or anything. The whole thing is raw, right? There's no subtitles for any of it because it's English, right?
Yeah.
But Yeah, but the Laserdisc version, I think people have tried it, but I don't think they're available just yet. But yeah, it is an unfortunate aspect to it. But the parts
Yeah.
that that are in English, that they have Jay Cabrera talking about it. I love that Jay Cabrera is like, he's voiced by Jay Cabrera. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, I was so confused. First 10 minutes I was like, okay, this isn't too bad, it's cute.
Right.
That was
You're like,
nice
where's this
aesthetic, whatever.
going?
Whatever.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mind. I was like, I'm expecting to just not try to like I get it. It's like a music video. So I'm like, music videos don't always make sense. Whatever. But then like as I'm trying to, keep the consistency in my head with the visuals that came before with what's coming next, I'm like, okay, now I'm getting confused. Now I'm really getting confused. Like, and I'm trying to
Wait,
make
now
sense
he's
of
an
it.
actor? Like, wait, he's a football player now? They're in like California?
There's
Like,
another
what?
one of him, and
Yeah.
why does he have a ponytail? Why did his hair color change? Why does he have a dot on his head? His ethnicity, Indian? Okay, his name's Shiva. Is his ethnicity Indian? Like, I'm just now we see the god Shiva.
Right.
Okay,
No, I never think that deep into it, man. It was just so
I think that's his brother. He's making out with his brother. All right,
yeah. No, that sense of bewilderment was that same, and I do think it was sort of a so bad it's good type of reaction earlier. The way I first learned of what Cypher was from this enlightenment chart on Hummingbird. It was like a group of elitists, and we had this one of those 4chan type of big charts of like, here's all the important shit, good shit to watch, and there you had all the classics on there, but you also had Inferno Cop and Cypher, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And like you was like, oh, it's only 40 minutes, whatever, and then. What the fuck? I had even less. I read it less into it. I read even less into it. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And it stuck with me.
You know what? Before I keep going on with my reaction, I was like looking at the time. I was like, I had read a review, like a MyAnimeList review just beforehand, just to prep myself, and they were like, it's like The Room but worse. And I was like, oh, okay, well.
I think The Room is genuinely very boring. I think Garzy's Wing is actually very boring. Aside from like the highlights.
Sadly enough, I've watched both. I definitely think those two. I had more of a boring time than watching this.
Yeah,
strangely 100%. Enough, I wasn't bored. I was just confused.
Right. And you're engaged with it, right? Because you're constantly like, it's holding on this shot of the Twin Towers, which, by the way, the film opens on a shot of the Twin Towers. Right?
I have to admit, the making of thing was just like, why the fuck is this in here? Why? Because I thought like this was part of the music videos. I'm like, why is this in here? Like, why are you explaining this to me? But part of me did think it was interesting. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, and they were like, we wanted to focus on the Twin Towers because that was like the symbol of New York. I'm the one with the antenna. It's like, oh my god, they fucking thought they were they were an analog for the Twin Towers. Jesus Christ. It's like, it's so crazy. It's so ambitious, and like
they totally didn't feel like they knew what they were doing.
Well,
but I heard they got voice actors off the street,
that sort of thing. But it's so cool. I don't know. It's very endearing to me. And
why? Is it the ambition? Is it that
it's so weird? And it's like what I think about anime, right? I try not to think of anime as this wacky thing, Japan, whatever. Yeah. But like, it's so experimental and imaginative and crazy, and they're not bounded by anything. I think that the Cypher OVA is so indicative of the OVA era because they really did just like, okay, we'll just have a series of music videos. There is one of the first OVAs ever made. Music Rhapsody, or it's not. Cypher was not the first one. One of the first, but
Mal comment likened it to the quote unquote first AMV before AMVs existed. Like they
Yeah,
said,
yeah, 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 yeah.
it was a bad one, but it was like one of the first AMVs.
I'm trying to find this particular one. It's not even subbed at this point. Maybe it's been subbed by the time I've seen it, but at the time I watched it, it wasn't even subbed. But there's a particular OVA from 1984 around this, like, and that's like one of the first OVAs, like, period. Trying to
Also,
find it.
really quick, while Shapes is doing that, just for whoever's still watching, just to give you a little more context, if you don't know what Cypher is, it literally is like a promotional music video slash OVA they did of this manga, shoujo manga, back in 1989. It is currently ranked on Mal 4.73 community score. So most people universally think it's bad, or as Shapes was saying earlier, so bad it's good. You know, similar to The Room. If you want to watch it, if you're curious, you can go on YouTube. It's 40 minutes. You could check it out.
It's right there, man. And
Right
there's
there.
no way we'll be. I want to give it an official release. I'd love to, just to be able to support this thing and have it. But
I think that'd be pretty crazy to be the guy
but
that was
it's
involved.
probably but it's probably impossible because of the music licensing.
Yeah, Kenny Loggins.
Yeah,
Footloose.
Right. But there's also and also like Phil Collins stuff,
Yeah.
and Kamikaze Twins, but Thompson Twins. But what was I going to say about it? That's like the thing that catches up a lot of anime, actually, unfortunately. Just whatever it is with the rights to various songs, like Evangelion almost didn't get licensed for so long
Because of Flying to the Moon.
because of Fly Me to the Moon. Yeah, they didn't have the permission. They worked under this loophole where they could use it so long as it never left Japan.
I think that they do that a lot for a lot of anime. That kind of it's okay as long as it's in Japan.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of a yikes. I don't know where it was. I have to look on Mal now. I thought I could find it on my list, but I guess it's not there. Gotta go find it.
So let's see.
But yeah, no, it was just so indicative of OVAs, and they could just do whatever they want, and that experimentation and like imaginative feel and how delightful it, like, off kilter funny it is, like the voice deliveries, like at the very end where Cypress Beat woke it up and he's like, yeah,
I remember that. But here's the thing, though, right? Your reasoning, doesn't that essentially, because it wasn't intended to give off that effect and for that to be the execution.
I don't know though. I don't think that I don't know what the intention was. I think the intention was to make it kind of fun and engaging and a music video of sorts, and like if it elicits a reaction, I think that's a success.
But doesn't that fall into so bad it's good?
I think that's a matter of saying it's bad in the first place. I think it's like asserting that the thing is bad. You don't have to do that.
Okay.
You don't have to say that. I think it's good because it elicited a reaction out of me. I've sat through such boring, numbing. I feel absolutely nothing. You feel like a waste of time. It's not provoking any thoughts. Like it's that I just hate. It's like that's so infuriating, right? Especially given how entertaining other anime can be and other animation can be.
Since we're in this section,
you're wasting this potential.
Please give me an example, please.
Lupin. There's a lot of Lupin. I call it Midpon. Midpon the Third. There's so many TV specials that are 90 minutes, and you watch them and you're like, I don't care what's happening. What's going on? Who cares? Whatever, dude. And like you completely just it's just so numbing and like whatever, dude. Or something, you see a lot of these Mal users, they love to like watch like some infamously bad stuff like Skelter Heaven or Boku no Pico or Shitcom or whatever, and it's just like there's so many of them that they watch them because they're shorts or something. They're that's 2 minutes, and then you watch it, and it's just some experiment. It's just like some like, I animated a ball of clay and it made it jump or something. It's like, okay.
So,
right,
what would you genuinely score Cypher out of 10?
I do wish it had way more physical animation to it. With like, I could tell that it is sort of like shoestring in places, so it's not a 10 for me. But it is a 9.
Okay.
I
All
do
right.
love it. I do love it a lot. Um, but it is closer to a 10, just because it's very singularly iconic, memorable. I always love it. Think of it. I would watch it I would watch it right now. You know,
Now,
I wouldn't say that about a lot of anime.
this makes me curious. Does that again? We didn't even go over what your metric is. I've seen people, they have specific criteria for their like personal scoring metric. That it needs to check these boxes and all of that. Does Cipher like kind of fall into your metric, or you don't even have one? Maybe your metric is if it elicited a reaction and
Like I said, yeah, I try to be as broad as possible. Oh, it's called that? Oh, I had no idea. Well, the thing I was thinking about was called Radio City Fantasy. It's very similar, where it's just like a bunch of music videos, and it's just it kind of tells a story of sorts. It wasn't as engaging, but it was certainly very interesting. I was happy I watched it. But
okay.
anyway, sorry. No, it's just like, I want to be as broad as possible and be like, I want to watch a bunch of these cool, wacky OVAs. I want to watch these magical girl shows. I want to watch these mecha shows. I want to watch these shonen anime for this demographic. I want to watch all this stuff by Mamoru Oshii. It's run the whole gambit. Explore it as much as possible. And the base thing, again, for someone who's like seen a bunch of it and doesn't want to really, I don't really want to consider myself a critic of anime in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am a critic of anime YouTube by basis of giving criticism on a public forum and publishing it, right? But I don't write reviews very much. I might write some impressions or something, or I'll write videos, but I don't really make videos that are anime reviews of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it really is that basis for me. It's just like, I just want to have fun or make me think, make me feel something. Take me on the kind of adventure that I know this medium is capable of, that I've seen it be capable of before.
So what delineates or distinguishes a 9 or 10 for you? So if you're like going by, if your spectrum, or sorry, your criteria is what you just said, I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want it to make me I want it to elicit a reaction in me and blow me away in whatever way, regardless of
yeah. That's why I choose to use face ratings on
right.
Kitsu, which are just 4 ratings. It's 4 faces: big happy face, smile face, neutral face, and frowny face. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Because it's more emotive, it's more expressive, it's more of how
and it's more of felt. It's more of a bucket, right? It's like, it's in this bucket, I like it. Or it's like, that was okay, that was all right. This was like, I wish that was better, that one had problems, I really wish I liked that one more. And this one was like, trash. It's not a fan, pretty much.
There was a question. No, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just like, in terms of what discerns a 9 or a 10, I've never really thought of it that much. I don't want to be splitting hairs like that. That's what I think the danger is to me of using the numbers as that thing. And then you're going to be like, I'm so torn between a 9 and a 10.
Wait.
I guess I'll give this a 9.5.
Wait a second. Is that why your system for digest is just, you did good, decent, best, sort of just broad.
Right. I you know what else it is? It's because I think the more amorphous the rating system, the less judgmental I think people can be about it. Because, right, you can't really parse mine, right? You can't be like, why'd you give this a 6, but this a 7? Right?
Yeah, Shaybs, why did you give me a decent and then put an asterisk? What the fuck?
Well, it's like, well, did you listen to the review? Yeah. Right? It's sort of that, it's that thing with like, magazines have had to struggle with this recently, where the splitting of hairs with the numbers and stuff, and it's like the pressure to not give something a 9 or a 10, right, or a high rate a game, for example.
Yeah.
And they get shit on and death threats because they gave it a 7.
9.672 final
Yeah,
rating.
you know what I mean, right? I feel like that when you do that, you're gonna be like, wait, why did this get a 6.27 and this one got a 6.29?
And then you have to worry about your score is not tracking with other scores, like
That's exactly it. And it's just like
feel...
I don't care enough. I don't care enough to do that, right?
That's interesting, Shaybs.
I don't care to like explain myself. It's like, what am I on the an interrogation room? I like
yourself.
the thing.
Explain
off,
this
right?
rating, Shaybs. I want to know what happened here. What
Yeah,
happened?
so it's like,
what happened with Mob Psycho 2? What happened? Why did it have a frowny face? I want you to explain yourself. This is not a joke.
I thought I gave it a mid face. I thought I gave it
I don't remember what you gave it. You gave it.
It's a new. I didn't give it an awful. I gave it I gave it a meh.
Yeah, why Mob Psycho 2, right? Or the whole thing.
I don't really know. Sometimes it's hard to parse. I think for one thing, this is obviously a very hot take for me, but God, that OP does not slap. I don't know what anyone. The second one.
Okay.
I don't know what anyone's talking. I don't know what you're talking about.
But you like the first one?
Yeah, okay. I do. Because it's got kind of like a weird sort of like counting up thing, and the visuals are cool, and there's a chant and stuff, and there's chants in the there's a chant in the second season, but it feels like it's aping off the first one, and it's a worse chant. It's like come on. I don't know.
I mean, I could see that. I'm a huge fan of the first one. Second one took me a little bit to get used to, but if it did not have the chant,
as they do, as new OPs do,
if it did not have the chant, it would not slap for me.
The thing is, right, that had premiered in winter, and I, for whatever reason, didn't want to watch it yet, and I actually avoided the OP until I was going to watch it. Mm-hmm. So I never listened to it, and all I heard was how many people loved the piss out of it. Every damn second on Twitter.
That also affects headspace.
Yes, that's exactly right. So then that's why I love watching Naruto now, because I can just react to the various developments and not give a fuck what other people think, right? Or what the community's is judgment on or whatever. I love navigating through it my own way. I think that's what a lot of people are kind of noticing when they're finally getting to One Piece. Like a lot of people finally start One Piece or whatever, and they love it. And it's like, wow, it's almost as if watching stuff week to week kind of sucks. And like having to wait every week, and the tunnel vision of like, wait, when are they gonna get to Dressrosa? When is he gonna beat the guy? What are they doing?
That's exactly
Where's Zoro?
That's exactly why I'm 4 or 5 years behind on the One Piece manga. I stopped during Dressrosa, actually.
Yeah,
weekly.
Yeah. So so it's just like, forget it, right? Yeah. So I don't know. There's a whole mentality to that. This is another interesting conversation, I guess.
But you don't feel like you have to sort of prove anything to anyone in terms of your taste. You're just like, I like what I fucking like. That's it.
I think if I wanted to come off as a critic and wanted people to listen to me in regards to this show is good and you should watch it, or this show's bad, you should not watch it. If I cared about that, then yeah, I would definitely have more consideration of my taste and the curation of things. And I think a lot of people want to feel that way because they look up to those people when they first get into the medium, right? They see, like, I saw it, for me, it was the anime snob, right? And, I see that very curated, whatever. And I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. Cause I'm inspired you like the potential of all this stuff and to experience these great stories. And for someone to have that sense of authority, you want some control in your life. And so it's like, it's kind of cool to be like a little critic of sorts if you get enough into it, right? Yeah. And some people, they never do, but they kind of become a surface level fan, and bless those people. But I think like the thing on the other side for me is kind of pull it on the other end, I guess. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's like kind of get on the other side of it, and you feel the same way, I guess, where it's like, oh, I just want to like things. Cool.
So you said bless the people that are just surface level fans. Is that that's what you said?
Yeah. Well, it's like when whether there was a person on I follow on Twitter. She's great. She watches tons, way more anime than I know anyone I know. She watches it like nobody's fucking business. I think her mal's over 2,000 or something.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
That's there's someone on my Discord that's like that. Just watches anything and everything. Just consumes everything. You know.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to be as consumer as that, because I do like making videos, right? And engaging in that way. I have other things. But there was a point where she was making this thread of stuff she had finished in the year 2021 or whatever, and she would always include a rating of this out of 10 to the thing, and that's always a great catch-all. That's a great shorthand, right? And I think it's valuable in that way. But inevitably, somebody would ask her, "What is a 7 to you? What does a 2 mean to you?" Right? And everyone has a different metric scale, and that's great to clarify and clarify, I guess. And she had to do that, because someone asked, and she didn't have to, but it's helpful if that's what you choose to do, and you bother to rate everything various numbers.
It's a good tool to kind of let communicate to other people what like a short, to me, shorthand.
Exactly. But to me, the shorthand is very very easy, where it's like the 4 faces and their different colors. It's very clearly like, I like these more than these other ones, or you just have it's a softer range, I suppose. It's just more of there's more of a gradient than a numerical, like, rigid boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, it's a 7. No, it's somewhere in that area, general area.
Yeah, right. Some people have adopted needle drops system, which I also very much like, and I do feel tempted sometimes if Mal or AniList or some of these other things had such a feature where you have light 7, decent 6, or strong 9.
Definitely feeling Evangelion's a strong 11. Strong 11.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's totally cool.
So basically in her case, she was kind of giving everything she watched kind of a score out of 10. But like you're saying,
she would give it a score out of 10, and then somebody would be like, "What does that mean to you?" Because it means something to me, but it might be different for you. And she's like, "Okay, yeah." So I guess that's a notepad of, like, she tweeted it of like, "Here's a 1. This is a description of, like, revolting, revile, like, it made my day worse kind of deal." Like, you paints it with more of a nuance, more of that gradient, right?
Yeah. And it's just splitting hairs, like you were saying. It just gets to that, then you got to split hairs with other people.
That it can become that. If you don't take too much stock into it, and be like, yeah, 7, and then you don't think about it again. Yeah. But again, if you really care a lot about it, you end up being at that point where you're like, you're literally like, sweating over, like, is it a 6 or a 7? Is it I guess I'll give it a 6.5 or a 6.25, or as it be.
So
there's potential danger that doesn't necessarily happen to everybody.
Now I have like 3 questions. One question that I skipped over earlier, and I think you've pretty much answered it, but I was going to ask, like, how much do you factor in enjoyment in your overall score of an anime, or do you separate it? But clearly it's all about your enjoyment, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I've zeroed in on is just the pure enjoyment thing. Because enjoyment takes in different forms, right? I'm not gonna score an anime low because it didn't make me laugh. If that wasn't the intention, then it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Right? But if it was the intention, clearly, to make me laugh, and I didn't laugh, then it's like, well, what else did it do? Did it engage me? Did it make me think? Or did it make me kind of like be at my desk with my head in my in my fist against your cheek, being like, I'm so bored. You're not engaged, right? And you're just like,
yeah.
I would rather not feel that. So it's like, well, not feeling it, meh. Or you're really frustrated by it. It's like, man, I wish this character wasn't like this. or they weren't making these narrative choices or these stylistic choices. And it's like, man, but there's so much potential here, and I wish it went this way, even though that's not the way it went, and that wasn't the intention or whatever. It's like, no, man, I'm just really ah, you know.
Yeah, because like many people see scores, as kind of a way to ascertain like quality, to kind of just capture, the quality of the show, whether you enjoyed it or not, to recognize how this show's, greatness in storytelling or, its execution or whatever. But
Well, it's
that's
called
why.
MyAnimeList for a reason.
Yeah, no, it's
I think
your
it's
AnimeList.
it's the person's individual thing. You want to ascertain who that person is in terms of them as an anime fan. If
Yeah,
they watch a bunch of '90s stuff and they don't watch a bunch of the modern things, then that's cool. And then you're just like, all right, they know their stuff with the '90s stuff, or they watch a bunch of magical girls, or they watch a bunch of shonen. They've watched all dark, you can tell how new a person is to the anime scene, where it's like, oh, they've seen a bunch of the Ghibli and Naruto, and that's it.
Demon
You
Slayer.
know, or, yeah, or that again, how recent they are. Are they following the seasonal anime? How long
Yeah.
have they did they have seasonals from like random seasonals from 2014? Right, like Buddy, like Valve Rave or something. Then if they have like Valve Rave on their list, it's likely that they, it's not guaranteed, but it's likely that they were watching seasonal anime in 2014.
I was.
Just stuff like that, right? Or just
Yeah.
or it's like, oh yeah, they're the Death Parade and the you get that. You can tell that from my list with like, wow, it's really packed with a bunch of these random seasonals from 2015 to 2017 or 2018 or so.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get that idea. And then the minute I see people who are watching 70s stuff, I'm just like, oh, okay, they're kind of deep into it.
Yeah. They've gone. They dove
Yeah,
deep into the medium.
yeah, and that's
Um,
great.
Two questions. Do you think everyone should have their own metric, whatever it is, whether gradient, numbers, I don't know, stick
And
figures,
the
but
FBI.
everyone should have a metric of their own.
Oh yeah, I think that. Well, it's like, what other metric is there? Are they going by Mal's metric? Then that is it by itself the metric they use, and
Yeah.
it's good to clarify that. Um, and I think seven's going to be different to a lot of people, of course, and they can take it however they will. But it's not going to be at the end of the day. It's not going to be what the person rated that as. It's like
Yeah.
you might take offense at this thing being a 7, but they might have completely different feelings on it being like, because some people might see the 7 as like, oh, they didn't like that one as much. I gave that a 10, but they gave it a 7. They must not have liked it as much. But then you
Are
ask them
those
about it, and you're like, no, I like that one. I like that one. Wow, they're talking mostly positive about it. They're not like as critical as you might have expected.
Yeah. And are those feelings ever not valid? They because people try to make it out to be that way, like, oh, they gave it a 7. They're not, they're not right, or they didn't
Well,
understand.
it
But I
does
guess that
put
goes back to the
it,
previous conversation.
sometimes it calls stuff into question. I think because if they're watching a bunch of magical girl stuff and they give them all 1s, and then they give Mecha and they give them all 10s, there's a bias there, right? And
Yeah.
there's something going on. There's
Something
something kind
fishy.
of
Doesn't check
parsed,
out.
it kind of like just detached from discernment of quality
Then
to
the
me.
problem there is they are not going in with an open mind.
Well, I think there's not really a problem. It's more like, well, I guess we have nothing to say when it comes to these titles. I'm not going to trust you about when you talk about magical girl anime because you don't seem to have much of a nuanced opinion about it. So when you're going to start talking about magical girl anime as an authority and you've given a bunch of 1s, there's almost none that you like, and it's like, well, how should I believe you, right? And it's also people talk about as an authoritative figure on a series that they haven't even finished yet. This is a
So
subtweet.
so scores are also kind of good because it's indicative of kind of sorting out whose taste you can kind of trust, listen to, kind of get a gauge of if they're biased or not, and that's also kind of a shorthand to really kind of know what that person's about in terms of what they like and if they, kind of align with your own taste.
Yeah.
Is it important to figure out your absolute top 10 anime?
I love it. I take a lot of value in stock into my top 10, but again, I don't really want to gatekeep and say something is a way of engaging and interacting as a fan is wrong. There's some people who, they have a pool of favorites, or they have really difficult times picking out a favorite. Trash Taste was really interesting. They had an episode where they talked about they made 3x3s of
Yeah,
their favorite anime, and
I
to
watched
them
it.
it was really a matter of like, I gotta go pick these. I don't know, and they just kind of like picked a random assortment, and it's not what they. There was an interesting conversation that brought up that Giga had talked about when talking about Connors, where these are not the shows on Connors 3x3 were not anime that he talks about very very often. It's not what you would expect in his top three in his 3x3. Obviously there's JoJo's, but he talks about Baki so often. You would expect that to be one of his favorites, and it's not. Or like at least enough to be in his 9. I thought Bakuna was going to be in his 3x3 because I know he loved that one, but it's not there. So
They
it's
were
like, huh?
also making it out to be that his 3x3 should be more reflective of who they know him as a person, as a person, reflective of his personality. That's the
Yeah,
sense I got.
but I took a lot of value out of seeing Gigix 3x3 because I never really knew. I knew he liked Your Name a lot and
Yeah.
like Orimo as a fan or whatever, but I didn't know how much of a One Piece fan he was. So seeing that on his 3x3 was a delightful surprise. It was like,
I,
wow, oh wow, I didn't know, right?
that one took me by surprise. Oremo took me by surprise too. Actually, the only ones that I was like were given were the top three: Your Name, Baccano, and there was another one in the
Ava as
third.
well was kind of expected for
Oh,
me.
that surprised me actually. I didn't think he liked Ava.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't know. Depends on what how he likes.
Yeah,
I don't
fair.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what parts he likes about Ava.
you're right. Um, but yeah, I think it's a great way to characterize a person's taste, very shorthand as just like scores, right?
Yeah.
Um, Especially when the person has a ton of high scores, and it's hard to like discern if they give nothing but if you have a list that has literally nothing but tens and they don't have a favorites list, do you know that much about that person? It's like
Yeah, not enough to
not
distinguish.
especially.
They like everything.
Yeah,
That's all you know.
yeah. If they have, yeah, I love people who have an all-time favorite, and that's like it's like maining a character in Smash, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something characteristic and like
Kirby,
interesting. Yeah, right. Peach.
awesome.
Um, it's something really interesting about it, and not necessary, but important. I think there's a je ne sais quoi about it. It would be like fighting somebody who doesn't have a main in Smash, and it's just like, huh? They pick random, and it's like, okay.
I mean, I do that sometimes to fuck around, but
Oh, me too. Yeah, yeah, of
yeah,
course, right? If you don't care, you're not leaning forward in the chair.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I think it's important, but it's not necessary.
But you definitely think it's good. It's a good way to find out what you're about. Your
I
own
think it's
taste.
excellent. I think I use it, and I I obviously wouldn't be using it if I didn't think it was good.
The probably the only anime. I don't even know why. The only anime on your top 10 that surprised me that it was there was and there's nothing wrong with the anime. I know it's well loved. Or on High School Host Club,
Yeah.
because I have not watched that since it aired. Like I watched it once when it aired. I remember everyone being all over it that season and talking about it. And then,
2006?
yep. Uh yeah, and I have not watched it since then. That's it. I know it was good. It was a good time. But after that, no one really
Yeah.
talks about it. It's kind of there. Like when people do bring it up, it's like, oh yeah, Oren's great. But that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So
That definitely. I did rewatch it in 2020 and loved it just as much. if not more, because I actually went into it with the knowledge of who the director was.
Okay.
Obviously, when you're watching it back then, not a lot of people give a shit who's directing it, right? It's just a
Yeah.
show.
It's like the show of the season, you know. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So the director of that, Takia Igarashi, went on to, after Oran, did Soul Eater, and he's worked on Virgo Stray Dogs and Star Driver. He's a big Bones guy.
Mm-hmm.
He originally was kind of an underling of Junichi Sato in that kind of Toei crew, and they were doing Sailor Moon. Taki Igarashi was doing Sailor Moon, and then he was with Junichi Sato doing Ojamacho Doremi. And then starting in the second season, and then for the majority of the franchise, he was the lead series director for it. And you get to know more about. And they also went on to do Naja a little bit, and that was a good show too. You get to an understanding of his style and his talent as a director and as a storyboarder. His feel for comedy and for action and things, and there's just more to appreciate, I think, that's not as discernible as a new anime fan. Like when you're watching Oran and Soul Eater as a new anime fan, you're never noticing that. But then when you've seen a ton of it, if you've seen Shaft, for example, right? You've seen some Shaft anime. That's so on the nose that it kind of awakens a sense in you. It's like, oh, storyboarding, that's a thing. Like the framing of the shot kind of deal, because theirs is so overt. And they take theirs a lot from Dazaki, by the way. But
So I do have a question. I don't mean to cut you off. Were you going to say something?
Sure. No, that was pretty much it.
So Oran just got on your list in 2020, right? Or you said you rewatched it in 2020.
I rewatched it. It's been in my top 10 since I made a top 10.
Oh, okay. That's a while.
Yeah, it was one of the first anime I watched in 2009 when it was on Netflix.
So it's been on your top 10 since like forever, but it wasn't just because of the director. You appreciate it more now, but it was because you just really enjoyed it back then.
It was because it was one of my first anime and I loved it. It was the same reason I had Black Butler as my favorite anime or whatever, because I liked Victorian England, and I
gotcha.
It's not like Black Butler's bad. I still appreciate it, but it was one of the, it's like you never forget your first anime kind of deal or whatever.
Yeah.
You have some nostalgia for it.
I've been rewatching one of those recently.
I had always been like rewatching scenes from it and always liked it, but then especially seeing some people screen cap it and posting those, in the server I'm in, where Ojamacho Doremi is such a popular show in that server, as well as Naja and his other anime. People would watch it and stuff, and it's sick. The designs are so detailed and animated, and like a lot of great cutaways and gags and stuff, and the comedy is so amazing. The dub is incredible. I don't even care if Icky Vicky is in there. I think Icky Vicky does a good job in his role. In the job he was tasked to do, I think he did a good job at it. The dub is fucking incredible. The music is great. It's really immaculate. It's a really great show. Really funny. Complete.
I have to rewatch it.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people should rewatch it, because it is one of those things that a lot of us saw very early on, and and so we just kind of flew over our heads how like how many gags there are, and like how many like chibi, like squishy, like like they how animated the characters are. Like it's nuts, actually.
Yeah. No, the character designs were great too.
Oh, and the fucking character designs are amazing. Nothing else like them.
And so I had a working theory, but you already disproved it, that your top 10 was kind of connected. Like the reason they're in your top 10 is because they were connected to like a director or something that you had an appreciation for, and that's why they're up there. But they do have certain facets for sure. I did have a Princess Tutu in my top 10, but then when I watched Ojamacho Doremi, that became the fourth favorite, and it bumped out Tutu. I didn't want to have two magical girl anime in my top 10. I do curate it in that way, where it's like
Okay, I don't really want to have too Ghibli in there, even though I love Castle of Cagliostro.
Right.
I love that movie. Um, but I'm only gonna have Nausicaa. No, I like Nausicaa more.
Okay.
Sorry,
So you're
you know what I mean.
just you curated in
So I
that
am
way of
I am parsing it in that way where it's like I don't want two Dazaki anime in my top 10. Right? It's balanced in that way.
do you think
And there's
that's
a yeah.
honest? Like to do it like that?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. There is manipulation to it. I think there is uh again, I see what the utility of a top 10 is. The top 10 is for other people to see,
Mhm.
to get a sense of what you care about. So do need to curate it and correlate it in such a way that shows people that it's like this is what I care about. If you're going to approach me as an anime fan, uh, and you want to ask me about this stuff, this is what I care about, right?
Yeah.
So
That makes
I
sense.
think, and it's not like I don't like any of these shows, or that I like certain shows more. Although I have had a very conflicting sort of relationship about Bebop in my top 10 because um, I don't talk about it or think about it nearly as much as Cypher or Ongaku or Mahojin Guru Guru or Urusei Yatsura. Some of these other shows that are like so important, like Princess Tutu is a former top 10 of my, like I would, I like Princess Tutu probably more than Bebop, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but there's something with Bebop that I really respect in terms of the technical craft.
Mhm.
Like I'm just like floored every time I watch it, and there's so much detail and attention. Um, it just is it's a peak. It's an anime. It's a peak for anime for me. And it's something that's like God. I'm so happy this exists. It's sort of like that thing. And Monster made its way into my top 10 because it kept occupying. It kept creeping into my mind after I
Mhm.
finished it. At first, I was like, "Wow, that was really good," but then I would talk about how I'm an anime fan, and some people wouldn't know what that is for whatever reason. And I would describe Monster. That would be the first thing I talk about in terms of like what anime is. It's like, yeah, it's animation, but it's not cartoons. It's like it has the story about a fucking neurosurgeon. Like it's the farthest thing from cartoon you could possibly think of,
Yeah.
right? And does Monsters the anime adaptation, does it capture uh the limits of what animation can accomplish and do?
Not really.
Maybe not.
It
Maybe
hasn't aged
not.
well.
It's not that it aged. I think it aged very well.
Did it? I
The
haven't
problem,
watched it in a
I think the
little bit.
problem was it's a very faithful page for page adaptation. It doesn't do anything different. It doesn't do any huge adaptation choices or super artistic whatever. Um, so there isn't. It's very polished. I love Urasawa's designs. I love the music.
You know what? I probably
Um,
watched it in low quality. That's probably
yeah, maybe I don't know.
I,
Like the dub is incredible, and the backgrounds are gorgeous, and it's very posh. Um, but my love for it is the fact that it was chosen to be animated at all versus a live action thing, right?
which was
That's
in the
what
works, but that didn't happen.
I guess. I'm sure it was the case. It is the case for 20th Century Boys.
Yeah,
The
like they were
live
trying to do a
action
monster anime,
live
but I mean,
action
sorry,
trilogy.
monster live action.
Sure, but like that, that it just represents something for me. And yeah, I think what you're saying is like, yeah, they do represent each thing. And Oren is that sort of old school nostalgia pick, but it is something that I do bolster as like, no, no, that quote unquote nostalgia anime for you might actually be really good, and you might be just unfairly dismissing it just because you watched it first.
Yeah.
I do think there is a slight bias against the things that you've seen first. And they know you don't take them in the full context of like, oh, this is an anime that was made just like all these other ones. That none of these were made in some wizard like magical freak accident circumstance thing. Like they were all made very similarly, and the like Yu-Gi-Oh aired as a seasonal anime.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a weird thing to think about as someone who you might grown up with Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
still a weird thought actually when I think about it because
yeah,
you
yeah, but they are anim.
no,
You know,
it's true.
they have their own things. That this is the character design of Pokemon, and
You just
you
see it
start
on
thinking
this
about
different,
yeah,
plane.
yeah. So and that could be that kind of brings its own unfair bias, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I want to treat this stuff as with as much respect as it deserves as every other thing, including this older. That's why I don't really want to go out of my way to watch Mars of Destruction or any of these other things, because it's like I don't want to. I would just feel bad. I would just feel like they actually tried. I once said of in critical criticism of Explanation Point, he had said that like the animation was lazy or something. He was like accusing the animators of being lazy or something like that. And I was like, you can't you can't accuse them of being lazy because it actually got made. It happened. A
yeah,
lazy person would be someone that has an idea but never acts on it. It's
it's true.
that's
Getting the
nothing.
thing done is exceptional within itself.
That absolutely. So I mean, I want to have it with as much respect as possible. And again, I really recommend that Cineclinic video because he also talks about like kind of the idea of calling something good animation or bad animation. It's
Yeah,
all animation, and it's a matter of giving it more nuance and talk about the merits of what it's trying to do.
yeah.
And it becomes so singular and
Talking about it
reductive.
in the context, did it achieve what it was trying to do? Or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
which is a lot more complicated and tough.
Oh yeah, but it's all about educating yourself if you do want to speak on it. Um, so with your top 10, as it stands, is there what do they all have in common? Like if I wanted to just draw out one facet of your taste, would you be able to tell me that, or is
Yeah,
it kind of
it does have it does try to span that gambit, right? Of like comedy, dramas, and eras. I try to have it as evenly distributed as possible because I wanted to show how broad my taste is,
yeah,
right? Um, but I guess the thing that I could probably say is just that they elicit very strong emotions, and they take advantage of how diverse and creative and imaginative and varied and effort filled that anime can be. I think of Bebop of how much care and attention to detail and effort is put into that work.
yeah,
LOGH, the dedication of having an OVA run for 10 years, 110 episodes, longest OVA ever. It's not
that's
what the reason I love it, but it's just
that's
like
insane.
it represents something, right?
Yeah,
And there's something to its visuals and stuff. There's this regalness to it. Ghibli and Nausicaa specifically. I think Nausicaa for me, it's a whole thing, right? But it feels like Miyazaki's like most original singular idea, um, to me at least.
yeah. I still need
Yeah,
to watch it, especially since Hideaki Anno animated that one part.
hell yeah. But
Continue.
no, yeah, it's just that's kind of it. I want it to be as broad as possible, so there isn't like a oh this guy likes this sort of deal.
It feels very calculated. Like it feels like not. I don't want to make it sound
Yeah,
like it.
it is.
Like it's
No, it
thought
is.
out. It's really thought out.
I think about it all the damn time,
Like I
and I
can
also
see why the fuck your Gurren Lagann video was the way it was.
oh yeah,
you
no for
know,
sure.
and
Yeah,
I come back to it sometimes actually in my head, your Gurren
thank
Lagann
you.
video. After everything I
Cool.
said, our
You were
whole
not that critical of it. Don't worry about it. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
but I come back sometimes to your music choices. I think I've even like just looked it up and just listened to it on YouTube.
Good, good. Well, there is that playlist. There is a
Yeah,
playlist
yeah. I
available.
actually appreciate that. That's one of the things I appreciate that you just
Yeah,
list it all out, so
yeah. I got that from Summoning Salt.
okay.
He
Okay.
does that, and it's like, wow, that's really cool because I appreciate, yeah. But yeah, um, yeah. No, I would be score. It's funny every time someone mentions my top 10, I always wonder like, are they going to mention Tentai Senshi Sunred?
I was going to, but you sort of like in the midst of the whole conversation, sort of answered everything I was looking for that I don't really need to bring it up. But my question was
Yeah.
going to be like, okay, there's two animes on your list that I'm not going to say objectively. I'm going to say community wise, people consider them like sevens, like seven ish, like not
Yeah.
masterpieces, not whatever. And that's Ojamajo. I don't, you know what? I don't want to butcher that.
That's
Adore
okay.
Me.
You,
And
you almost had it. Ojamajo. That's okay.
yeah, Ojamajo Doremi Dokkan, and then yeah, and Tentai Senshi Sunred.
Yeah.
7.81, 7.59. And my whole question was going to be like, okay, people rate it that. What do you rate it? And I think, if it's on your list, it's because you see it as a strong 9 or a 10. And it tracks with what you've already been telling me about enjoyment, eliciting a strong emotion. So that's why I didn't really ask about it.
No, yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think for that, the other thing with Sunred in particular, and also with Doremi, is visibility. You when you see something in a top 10, you automatically think, "Oh shit, what is that?" And then the first, it's like, should I watch that? Or maybe I'll watch that. Like when you saw Sunred in my top 10, you're like, you kind of got some interest in it, right? And you're like, "Ooh, what's that?"
I looked it
Right?
up. I have never seen this in one of the reasons I brought up your top 10 is because it's very different from other top 10s. Not everything. There's a few things, that
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
staples.
I think there are ways to argue that it's a boring taste for sure.
But there are some things that I don't normally see. And I was like, oh, this is up here. Oh, this is up here.
Right.
Or like something that, you people have as a favorite, but you don't see it in the top 10.
Yeah, you want to have it. You have it. I have Sunred, and in some ways Doremi, but Doremi really emotionally resonated. I love the piss out of Doremi. Like Jesus
Also,
Christ.
I did not know you loved magical girl shows, so that also was the whole.
Oh yeah.
Curiously, oh, that's up here. Okay, I never heard of it.
Oh yeah.
But,
But like I got into Doremi because I saw it in other people's top tens, and I was like, wait a minute, isn't that show from 4Kids that like I remember seeing that as a kid? Well, that was okay, but like really, there's more. Wait, there's 200 episodes. Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, that's a lot.
And then you see some art of it, and you're like, wow, that's nice. Oh, there's some episodes directed by Mamoru Hosoda. Whoa, those look pretty good. Wait, you're saying that it ran the same 4 years as the first 4 seasons of Digimon by the same studio, Toei?
Really? That's crazy, actually.
Think I'll watch Doremi and Digimon together, and we'll check it out. That is how I watched Digimon alongside Doremi.
Just watch Summer Wars and the Digimon movie together at the same time.
No, basically, but like Jesus Christ, yeah. But Sunred is for visibility. It really is to be like, no, that's a really fucking cool show and funny, and I think you should watch. It should be. I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not, but it's really funny. It's like kind of in the same One Punch Man type of humor. I have a video on it as well, by the way.
So totally like interesting, the whole visibility thing. That's, interesting way of putting it. And it's true. People see it and they'll wonder, and there's a curiosity, and you want to give that more visibility. That's actually, I just watched an anime recently that is so underrated, and it's so good.
Yep.
And part of me is like debating, like I enjoyed it so much, like fuck the flaws or whatever, like let me put this in my top 10, like, or something to
Definitely.
And I'm
You
like,
love
no,
it,
but
right?
the quality, but whatever.
For it.
And it's like, no, but people need to see it. It's good,
Yeah, you want to enjoy it. It's sort of it's like a little validation. It's like, I'm not crazy, right? This is really cool, right? But also just I got so much joy out of this. I want other people to feel the same joy I felt. And that's really what motivates and drives me so much. Because it's why I advocate for some of this stuff. It's like, oh fuck yeah, Tonkatsu DJ Gotaro, let's go, and like it's fun and like really it's cool, and like and there's a sort of almost a little, I don't want to gentrify it, I guess. I don't know if that's the word, gentrify, but like you get like a brotherhood of sorts where you're like, yeah, we're the people that have seen like Mahojin Guru. We fuck with that. It's, we're liking each other's tweets and shit like that. And same with Ojamaja Doremi. with
I
like
mean,
you're in the
yeah.
Doremi gang, and like it's sick. And that sort of community is very enriching
Because
and
you get so used
a
to
positive
people.
experience.
Yeah, no, and I think I'm seeing that now. Like you get so used to people liking the same, they're valid, the top, good
Monogatari high,
anime, all that, and it's great. But it's like they have
you feel
so
like
much.
you feel like you're in an ocean of fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not saying like, oh, I wish, I had this obscure thing that no one liked. But then when you do
Right.
happen to like that one anime that doesn't get that as much attention, and you find that, little group that also thinks the same thing, it's like, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
alone. Like, let's go. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I'm just feeling that now. So I'm in that headspace.
Definitely. I think it's so enriching and fun in its own way. Again, it's another just simple fat. It's like staring screen caps or cosplaying or calling an anime trash or shit. It's engaging with the with fandom, and I appreciate it. I yeah.
Honest question. If it wasn't for visibility, would Tentai Senshi Sunred be in your top 10?
Probably not, because I have thought about it being like about Cypher being in there instead of it,
Okay.
because I love and advocate for it so much all the time, and for similar reasons. Um, but like, yeah, it's just like there wasn't as much of a motivation to do it, I guess.
This is
But
just
like,
like
yeah,
an
it's
interesting way to think about it. So just have to comment.
definitely no. I think for sure if it was as popular, then like, yeah, I honestly like if I get to One Piece and I love it, I'll probably put it in my favorites, but I don't know if I'll ever put it in my top 10
Mm. Yeah, because
unless it really really connects with me
yeah,
more so than these other ones, then it's, you know, then
yeah.
so be it. But
I'm guessing
yeah,
the order of your top 10 reflects, visibility, other stuff. But the closer you get to the top, it's the more of what truly just resonated with you. Period. That has to
kind
be
of,
up there.
yeah. It's obviously really arbitrary and like not like, sciencey based on any
Yeah,
logic or anything, but like
6.72.
kind of, yeah, but like, I like the idea of an all-time favorite, which is for me is Joe.
Yeah.
And then I like the fact that LOGH always takes the number 2 spot, because it's kind of seen as the objectively best anime to some fans.
Oh,
I don't like seeing it that way. To a lot of elitists, right? It's the
yeah.
gold, the
It's
platinum
it's
standard.
part of the the elitist starter pack. I've seen a meme going
Not even
around.
starter pack, the one. It's like the one. But
Yeah.
it's so ironic that because that particular show is actually really modest. Uh, it's so funny. The first episode, one of the first things they say is like, "Oh yeah, our conflict is probably one among the vastness of the universe," and it's 150 years as these two factions, and yeah, but there could be other people fighting and stuff, and they take it away from themselves, and the protagonists of the series, the two major characters, both of them are fairly modest about their positions, and they're not as like egotistical
Yeah.
or whatever, and so they don't. It's so funny that I've always wanted to kind of make a video on it, but like it's such a weird amorphous topic. Um, but LGH is just such an anti-elitist anime for being an elitist anime, right?
Hmm.
It attracts elitists for it'd be fun. It'd be really interesting to kind of analyze it based on what aspects of it attracts elitism.
Mhm.
The people that like this show. What does it do that likes it? But at the same time, what is it talking about in its themes, in its characters, in the way it's presenting, that is actually pretty modest and anti-elitist, in a community weird meta sense. But it would be a lot of pseudoscience. It'd be kind of pseudoscience
I
and not
mean,
really like,
I think that'd be an
not based
interesting
on
video.
anything in particular.
You
It
could
would
do a
be
little.
interesting, but be like,
If
what's he talking about?
if you could do a bit of a survey, some research,
I guess,
but
I
uh,
want to rewatch it, of course.
I still
I
need
want to
to
rewatch
watch
it with
it.
my friend.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
it's
think it's great. I hope people don't be. I just it's just unfortunate that that circle of like that part of the fandom has really owned it, and now it's gotten this kind of infamous type of backlash from these people who are on Twitter, like anti-Twitter, are just like, you know, they're always making these collages and these tops, and you know they're ranking it with their friends, and they're giving each other L's and W's and shit. And that culture has naturally approached LGH, and some of them have made it all the way through and loved it. I don't know very many people who have seen all of it and don't like it, or are like mid on it, or just like lukewarm or something. If you finished it, it's usually like you love it. Or
I'm pretty sure I'll like it if I watch it, but you know, I'm afraid of what I'll become. But that's another.
It is the rich dark chocolate of anime. You know, no, but I think if you go into it with those expectations, it really it can come off as disappointing in some places, because it is very unassuming in terms of its visual present. Although there is a lot of technical good stuff about it,
people are making it seem very grand, you know. And what you're saying,
and so there's this backlash against it now, right? It feels like it's uncool to like this show, and I don't like that. I really hate it, actually.
Maybe that's a topic for another time. Maybe a good topic.
Pretty much.
I think so. You know, I do want to stop soon because
I know. I've been going on.
No, I think this has been great. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Hope you'd be willing to come back in the future. This has been super cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. Thanks for having me.
And I'm not kicking you off just yet. Before you go,
go ahead.
I want to do so. You answered my top 10 questions. That was cool. Like really, like lightning quick round. I want to get your thoughts on a few anime that you just a few anime, just because I didn't get to ask you. So you like magical girl anime, you've seen a lot. What happened with Madoka? You told me it's not one you liked as much.
I saw it very early, actually. I saw it before 2 Full Moon, Otomajo Doremi, the ones I really like. So I went into it with the expectations of it being kind of fucked up and like, you know, the reputation it has. Before having seen a lot of magical girl anime. And I went and I binged it in one night, and I just found it kind of confusing, and like it was more like complicated than like scary or like whoa or something in it. I don't know. I didn't resonate with it very much, but I do think I back then I didn't have as much of a appreciation for art. for the production side and the visuals of stuff. I think the presentation will be a lot more interesting if I watch it again. I'm looking forward to watching the movies. I never actually ended up watching the movies.
Yeah, so, I watched those. Third one was interesting. First two were recap.
But I'm fairly middling to it.
You know, now that you mentioned art, there was one topic we did not touch on at all. I don't want it to bring up, but you know what? That's its own thing. It's a big sort of art versus accessibility in anime. So we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, what it be?
What about Silent Voice?
Yeah, I forget if I watched that as a double feature with something else. It was in my otaku. It was in my club otaku. You know, I just didn't feel I didn't engage with it the same way. Maybe it was the environment I was in. I don't really like as many. I was actually very middling on a lot of Kyoto animation works. I don't know what it is. I'm not really interested in seeing Hyoka for some reason. I've tried it a couple of times, and like, you know, not like as a dedicated I will start watching Hyoka kind of deal. But like somebody would play Hyoka in the club room, or somebody would be watching it and I, you know, group watch it with them or something. But like, I never found it that engaging. I don't know what it is. But TPK Euphonium I didn't really like either. Very middling towards it. But I loved Bluebird. Listen to Bluebird to fucking bits. Let's fucking go.
Still haven't seen it. Heard great things. I've always been all right with Euphonium. I know people love it. I don't know. It's never.
That's what I mean, right? It really is sort of exactly. It didn't like have the resonance sort of deal, and that's what I felt with Silent Voice.
But Silent Voice, I felt like it was really, really well done. So I don't know.
That's great. You know what it is. You know, also I definitely wasn't as. I know that I get that was the point kind of deal, but the whole opening scene with him bullying and stuff was very uncomfortable for me. and then engaging afterwards, I didn't really care as much about the other characters that were introduced besides the main guy and the deaf girl.
Gotcha. Yeah, because
So it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's like,
all right, makes
didn't feel
sense.
as focused to me.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I just never was like when I finished it, I wasn't like, oh my god, it was just
Sure.
like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm just midway to it.
But I do recognize it's well done. So, YYH or Hunter x Hunter?
As of right now, Yu Yu Hakusho, but I'm gonna rewatch it this year. I just finished watching Hunter x Hunter 99, and I have a much better impression of Hunter x Hunter than when I did. Well, okay, when I watched it in 2014, that was one of those shows that really got me sunk into the anime in general, and it was my top 3.
Yeah,
it was like one of my favorites. But then it's a whole story about me trying to rewatch it with Yu Yu Hakusho, and oh my god,
So you think the now you think the 1999 Hunter x Hunter is better than the 2011? Is that another topic?
It is a whole other topic, I guess. But
Just-
overall, I did like 99. I don't know if I liked it more than 11 the first time I watched 11 versus rewatching the same material with 99. I'm not sure. I'm pretty out in the jury on that one.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me about it later. Ranma 1/2 thoughts?
I haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen Urusei Yatsura and Maison Ikoku, Rurouni Takahashi's 2 prior works, but I haven't seen Ranma or Inuyasha yet.
I haven't seen the 2 prior works. I've seen Ranma, Inuyasha, and so forth.
Interesting.
Ranma is like one of my first favorites, so that's
that's totally cool.
I own it on DVD.
Sick.
Yeah.
I'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Okay, last one. Golden Boy.
Good. I think I liked it a lot more when I first watched it, because it's like, whoa, the Rachi. I'm not as much of an ecchi fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I don't like ecchi, or it's like, oh, wag the finger at the sexual fan service. But I definitely was when I was an elitist, of course, because that was always one of the taboos, I guess.
Is ecchi elitist? Is it really?
No, it's the opposite. No, it's
okay.
If it's ecchi, that must mean it has some. That means it's a flaw, in the minds of,
No, because you said you did watch ecchi when you were an elitist, unless I misheard.
No, so I had watched Golden Boy as is like, oh, despite it being an ecchi, this is a good one. It's like, most ecchi's bad, not this one, which is really bad and reductive and stupid to say. But it's been a while. I do enjoy it. But you know what? I also had looked into the manga, and I was kind of like horrified by how that turns out. So I was like, oh, what the fuck?
So the OVA is its own experience, and then I once was curious about the manga. Oh, this has more of a story. Went into it.
Yeah, more episodic stories. I love it. Right.
Okay, yeah.
And then I went, and you're like, oh.
I got to volume 2. I'm like, what the? And then I was out. Never looked back.
Yeah.
So, but hey, for the OVA itself, I thought it was great.
Definitely.
And then I also wanted to cover the broad spectrum. We got to talk about ecchi, we got to talk about magical girls, everything. And that's it. I think this was good. I think we're gonna leave it off here. Thank you guys for joining into the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Shaybs, if you ever want to,
definitely did.
If you ever want to 1v1 in Smash, hit me up. I'll use my main against yours. So.
Oh God.
I'm assuming you have a Switch.
I do, but I have to ask my friend for the game.
Oh God. Well, we got to do this.
Oh my God.
Look, also, I barely play, so it's not like I'm like.
Okay, that's great.
I'm gonna lean forward. All right, destroy Shaybs. I destroyed that guy that does Anituber Digest. That's it.
Yeah.
Redeemed.
All right, that's fine then.
No, we're just gonna fuck around. We'll probably talk anime and just. My favorite thing is having a full blown conversation like this while mindlessly playing Smash.
I do like that.
It's very fun. Very therapeutic.
It's been very long since I've been playing Smash as well.
Yeah, hit me up.
As soon as the second fighter pass is like finished, I'll probably try to buy all and play with all the DLC characters, because
I'm probably gonna do that
too.
I've
never played any of them.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I just the only one I'm missing I haven't bought yet is Sephiroth, and that's about it.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, thank you guys for joining. We'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you guys on the next stream. I'll be doing one next Saturday. That'll be a fun one. So tune in next Saturday. I should be at 5 p.m. EST, but I'll post about it during the week. Anyways, see you guys.
Yo, peace.
He's always consistent with that, by the way.